Sir, please unmute.
Yeah.
There is no sound.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What I'll do, I'll turn off the video, then maybe the voice quality will be better. Okay. Thank you, Sulika, and thank the organizer, Dr. Melissa Walang, Dr. Sarzuwala, especially the principal of NERIE. And I'm really delighted to speak from sitting at home at this national seminar organized by the NERIE-NCERT. What I can see that most of the speakers have listened to them, and they have kind of exhausted what I was supposed to say. Actually, the topic is such that this has been a long concern for all of us, whether NCERT or the Ministry of Education, CIL, and all the stakeholders, state education councils, right? So we all have been talking about it for past many decades. Even NCF and the old National Policy on Education and the new policy, National Policy on Education 2020, they all talk about these things. So what I'm going to talk about is not very much new for most of you, but still this is a time when we should kind of make ourselves reminded of something that we have been talking about and reaffirm our commitment. And let's understand what is lacking and what needs to be done as far as the education, especially the language education and the minority languages in education are concerned. So I'll be summarizing certain things that have been going on for decades, and also Professor Sachdeva has talked about it a lot this morning, and I heard Professor Meghanathan speaking, and he also kind of summarized, and then some of the papers, especially that of Dr. Sarzuwala Devi's paper, they have kind of underlined and highlighted most of the important points that I would be talking about already. Number one is that when we talk about minority languages, we have to understand the language situation in India. And that is what we understand first by language, and then minority and majority. These two things are very important. One is that, in various documents, it has been kind of loosely mentioned that even in NEP 2020, we find that various terms have been used, like sometimes mother tongue, sometimes home language, sometimes minority language, sometimes tribal language, sometimes regional language, and so on. We have these many varieties. But I personally like the way census records languages, mother tongues, that way, and also the points that have been given by Fishman and others, the traditional sociolinguistic theory, the difference between language and dialect, and then in census language and mother tongue. I personally buy that and I respect that, and I believe in that kind of differentiation. So what one that is given in census is that of language and mother tongue. So in census we find that thousands of languages like mother tongues are enumerated, and then the linguists sit together and they rationalize it, and they come down to certain number of languages. And those languages which are spoken by more than 10,000 persons, and those languages in mother tongues which are spoken by fewer than 10,000 persons. And this is how they group. So we will have a language and then certain mother tongues under it. And one of those mother tongues will be the standard one and the language. For example, if you look at the entry for Bengali, we find that language is Bengali, and under Bengali we have four mother tongues like Bengali, Rajbangshi, Chakma, and Hajong. So Bengali is also listed there, and Bengali is the standard or the language, the so-called language. So language is Bengali. Similarly, in Hindi we find about 55, 56 mother tongues listed, like Banjari, Abdi, Maghi, then Bhojpuri, Brajbhasha, Khadi Boli, even Hindi, Chhattisgarhi, Lamani, Lambadi, Sugali, Garhwali, Kumaoni, Mandyali, and so on. And Hindi is also a mother tongue, and out of that, Hindi is the language. This is what census does. Now, when we talk about language going to education, then the question arises, which one to take into language education in the schools, the languages or the mother tongues or the both. So personally I feel that what happened actually, even if you look at the present census data, that is of 2011, where we have about 1370, 69 to be specific, languages and mother tongues, and not all are spoken by a large number of people. Like in 1961, we found that more than 200 mother tongues were such which were spoken by only one person. So the question is, that person may not be talking to anybody. So many names are just a fictitious kind of, or people give a name of the mother tongue or language as they understand. They are not linguists. So they may say like Darbhanga, Muzaffarpuriya, Bangalore, or Malabar, and so on. The Bangalore, Mysore, you'll find names like that. Devanagari, Roman, Gurmukhi, all these people will cite. And so we have to make a differentiation between language and mother tongue. So every language starts as a mother tongue or dialect. Every language is essentially a mother tongue and also a dialect, but not all mother tongues are languages. This distinction has to be kept in mind. So, number one, we cannot bring all those mother tongues. Even in 2011 census, as I mentioned, 1961, 1951, 1991, 2001, there were more than 200 mother tongues, Indian mother tongues, which were spoken by not more than 10 persons. And there were about 300 which were not spoken by more than 100 persons. So if you look at the number of students that may out of these languages, like if there are 5 speakers of a language or mother tongue, then they may not be going to school. So we have to make a planning for both. Which domains the language will be used, and in which domains the dialects or mother tongues will be used. So that planning needs to be done from the bottom, separate for dialect and separate for language. We cannot equate both dialect or mother tongue with that of language status. So language is different and dialect and mother tongue are different. So this we have to keep in mind. And I have done research and I found that out of 1369 mother tongues that are there in 2011 census, more than 100 are foreign mother tongues. And as I mentioned already, that about 500 are spoken not by more than 100 persons, and only say 270 are spoken by more than 10,000 persons. So let's focus on these 270. Then the question also comes, even if we plan that all mother tongue should be included in school education, then see the data for mother tongues and languages which are spoken by fewer than 10,000 persons is not published. It's not made public. So we do not know that what their names are and how many speakers are there, where they are located, except for some tribal languages, the ST communities for all the states, that data is available. If you go into the detail of the census, like the mother tongues of the STs in the states and union territories, then you can find out that which tribe speaks which mother tongue as a mother tongue, and also which other subsidiary languages they speak. For example, in Arunachal Pradesh, there is a tribe, sub-tribe called Tangam. So in 2001 census, we had about 350, say, the ethnic community members of Tangam community. And the language, mother tongue spoken by Tangam was about 243 or 245, as I remember. But in 2011 census, we have only 7 Tangam persons who claim to speak Tangam variety of Adi as mother tongue. So you have to plan accordingly. So there still you will find that there will be ethnic communities, the tribal communities, where you will find that the number of ethnic population is large. For example, Bhumis, you'll find that the number is more than 10 lakh or so. But actually, they are not spoken by so many Bhumis ethnic community members. Only about 1,50,000 persons speak Bhumis as mother tongue. And this is true for many of the languages and mother tongues, where the name appears in census as mother tongue or language, but in reality, the number is not so big. Another language I can give you an example of that from Manipur, like Ralte. The Ralte speakers in Manipur are about 13 or 17, but the ethnic population is bigger. So we have to keep these things in mind when we decide that which language or mother tongue should go in school education. This can be used for the school education. So I would suggest I have narrowed it down to like these 270 mother tongues which are there spoken by more than 10,000 persons, fine, and about 100 or 125 can be added to it, because there are mother tongues which like names are different and even mutual intelligibility is not so much there, like they understand each other only say 40 or 45%, and there are certain mother tongues like 4, 5, 6 names will be there. For example, Sugali, Banjari, Labani, Lamani, like the Banjara varieties. So they are mutually intelligible more than 90%, and they are different names for the same language. And the same is true for many other varieties or mother tongues. Like Tripuri, we have a name in census called Tripuri in Tripura, but you cannot find Tripuri language. Actually, Tripuri is an old name and a cluster, an umbrella term. It includes many sub-tribes and even mother tongues and dialects like Kokborok, Riyan, Jamatia, Noatia, Murasing, Rupini, all of them. But they understand each other to a great extent. So instead of having all these mother tongues in school education, Kokborok, Riyan, Jamatia, Noatia, Murasing and others, we can have just Kokborok as it is done as of now in Tripura, and education can be given in that language. Similarly, we have two language names in census like Kabui and Rongmai. So, but essentially you'll find that except for some lexical and some phonological variations in Manipur and Assam, varieties of Kabui, they can understand each other very well. So instead of having two names, two school languages, Kabui and Rongmai both, we can have one. Similarly, Halam is one umbrella term, and Halam is not just one language. It has various, like Halam community has various sub-tribes, and they all have different mother tongues, like Kaipang or Ranglong, Khelma or Sakachep, Mulsom, and so many. Some 10 or 11 are there. And I'll give you quickly an example, like in Tripura, Halam Kuki used to be taught in school. Even now it is taught. But what for many decades they have been doing that instead of teaching one of these varieties, because Halam as language, it's an abstract construct. It is composed of 10 or 11 varieties or mother tongue. And one of them should become or should have become the standard language. But they were afraid because there was demand that Mulsom should be included and even Kelma should be included, Kaipang or Ranglong should be included. So to avoid these confrontations, what they did, they started teaching Mizo in the name of Halam Kuki, because there is so much similarity there. So these things are there. Similarly, in Bangla, if you find like Rajbangshi and Chakma are so much different from the standard Bangla that for a child who studies through Bangla, Rajbangshi, who knows only standard Bangla, Rajbangshi can be like a say Tamil or Hindi, like a foreign language, or Chakma can be like a foreign language, and vice versa. For a Chakma speaking child who knows only Chakma variety of Bangla, let's say variety as of now, or Rajbangshi mother tongue of Bangla, but for that child, standard Bangla is like Sanskrit or like German or French. It's so difficult. So we also have to keep these things in mind. So what I say that roughly 270 and plus about 125. So not more than 400 mother tongues and languages where we know the linguists and states, the governments, we know that this is certainly a language. For example, we have no hesitation for, say, Kom or Mizo or Khasi or Garo or these Kuro, Kharia, Santali. These are languages looking at their history, and they have been there for many centuries. So we know that, yes, these are languages. But then there is some new ethnic identities. And what happens, they also start demanding for that my language should be, my mother tongue or dialect should be called a language, and it should be included in school education, in administration, and all other places. I'll give you one recent example, two actually. One is that of scheduled language, my own mother tongue, Maithili, where what happened, it was considered as mother tongue of Hindi until 2003. And in 2003, there was an amendment in Constitution, December, and it was included in the 8th schedule. So from 1st January 2004, Maithili, which was mother tongue and also sometimes known as dialect, suddenly became a language. But then, language status has been given. It is included in the 8th schedule, but Maithili is not taught in a school, neither as subject except for one or two or three classes. I remember 6 to 8 perhaps, and that too in few areas, in few schools only. But it is not an official language of Bihar. It is not taught in school, but it is taught in at the post-graduation level. Even you can do PhD. So that is another thing. That what happens, people see, as I understand, and this is a linguistic reality, that language is a socio-political construct. The society and the politics, the government and society, they together make a language. It's not that government alone can make something language, or an ethnic community or a tribal community or any speech community can make their dialect or mother tongue a language. So, in reality, what happens, it's possible in our society, especially in India, that what we call a language may essentially or actually be a dialect or mother tongue. Like now what has happened in Arunachal, you must have heard that there are many varieties of Adi, and many of them have been listed as endangered languages. Endangered languages, not mother tongues or dialects, in the UNESCO Atlas of Endangered Languages. So you'll find there Adi is endangered, then Bori, Bokar, Minyong, Tangam, they're all endangered. So what happens now, once this status was given by UNESCO, then these sub-tribes started looking at their mother tongue or dialects as a language, separate language. And then there is a demand that all these should be given the status of language. So same thing has happened for many other, like there are varieties of Monpa in Arunachal Pradesh. We have different names and also varieties and sub-varieties like Bhut Monpa or Lishpa or Motuo Monpa, then Momba, Menba. So there is fairly good amount of mutual intelligibility, and people do not mind that like Bhut Monpa or Lishpa, where you call them by different names, or Sartan or Bhutpa, they do not mind. They all identify themselves as Monpa. But once in various documents and various agencies, when they give them different status, like UNESCO Atlas of Endangered Languages, there we find Motua Monpa also there, and Lishpa is also there, or Lish Monpa is also there. And similarly, for Mishmi, we'll find that Idu is there, then the other Digaro Mishmi is also endangered. So they were managing these varieties, were managing as one language or one group in Arunachal Pradesh for many centuries. But recently, what has happened? This uprising, like ethnic separation, ethnic kind of awareness has come, and also the one thing that is added there is that here we have in tribal communities so many sub-tribes, and many sub-tribes aspire for becoming, getting the status by government of India. And recently, one thing had happened, like in 2003, one sub-tribe, which is sub-tribe of Mao, called Paumai, they got enlisted as scheduled tribe in Manipur. Now, what they think is that since we have a Paumai tribe, which is a scheduled tribe in Manipur, so one tribe, one language. So the notion of a separate language, not under Mao, came. And Paumai, the people called Pao, and language is La. So there is a new language called Paula, and that has been granted the status of a school education, like it should be included in school education in Manipur. Similarly, I'll give you an example from Nagaland and Manipur again. What has happened, like there are three tribes, the speakers of which were very few once upon a time in say 1970s and 80s or even prior to that. So Chakru, Kheja and Santam. So since the numbers were few, so they decided, and they could understand with little difficulty each other. So they came together, and one tribe name was coined, Chakesan. And again, once a tribe is there, it should have one separate language. So Chakesan tribe and Chakesan language. So that is how we find it in census, because there is a tribe. Similarly, we had Zemi, then Liangmai, and Rongmai. So again, they were very few in number some 50, 60 years ago, and they were not getting the benefit of tribal status. So they grouped themselves together, and a new tribal identity was created, and that was known as Zeliang. And sometimes Rongmai is added, and Zeliang Rong is also added. The three syllables from three language names and one language name, one tribe name. So Zeliang, and then Zeliang should have a language, separate language. So Zeliang is a language. Now, if you want to include, say, Zeliang as a language or Sakisang as a language, and also say Butmonpa or Lishmonpa as a language, Bori as a language, Bokar as a language, or Tangam as a language, then we'll have problems. So what I suggest is that one thing that we should, both the society, the linguists, and also the government should do is that have the idea of kind of clustered mother tongue. Like Adi, Bokar, Bori, Tangam, Parsi, Libo, they can all be grouped together if there is not too much of variation. Like many other varieties like Bhojpuri and Maghi in under Hindi, or Chhattisgarhi and Rajasthani under Hindi, there is so much of variation that it's difficult for one mother tongue speaker to understand the other. So there we have to have include all the mother tongues. So Avati has to be included separately. Braj Bhasha has to be included separately. Rajasthani has to be included separately. Now talking of Rajasthani, see, as I already mentioned, that there are certain names which are actually umbrella terms. You cannot find Rajasthani mother tongue or Rajasthani language in Rajasthan. What you will find is like you can find Barmeri, Bikaneri, Jodhpuri, Mahajani, Marbari, and so on, so on. So different regions will have, and different subgroups within those communities. They'll identify a separate mother tongue, and then they ultimately call that a language. So when we want to include Rajasthani, we have to decide whether Barmeri will be there, or Bikaneri variety will be there, Jodhpuri will be there, or Marwadi will be there, which variety, or Jaisalmeri will be there, or Chittorgarhi will be there. All these things have to be taken care of. And this can be done together with the society and government, because language is a socio-political construct. Only mother tongue and dialects are realities, but languages are not. Okay, given that, now what are the problems that we face when we talk about, see, we have been talking about inclusion of many languages and mother tongue in school education, and but we failed. In spite of having policies and the three language formula, nothing seems to work because there were problems in implementation of those policies. We had very beautiful ideas, but we were not able to transact those say ideas, concepts into reality. That was a problem. So one was that because we always decided a top down method, like the government decides or the linguist or some agency that this is language and this is mother tongue and this should go in school education, that should go in administration and so on. We kind of never involved people, what people want. And today only, Sarju hinted at that see, and even Meghnathan has also highlighted that the people have different understanding of the language and their desires. What do they want? So we all know that there are so many researches and findings are there, papers are there, and people keep talking about in NCERT and outside that see, if you go to people, they'll say that our children already know mother tongue. So why do you want to teach them mother tongue? So why not some other language which can uh, give them some employment or that can make them wise or they can learn those languages, bigger languages, and they can have better opportunities in life. So that's why the people do not want. So what is this conflict is there? What people want is that they want to retain their mother tongue or language. They make it. They want that it survives, but they do not want it in the school education. They want their languages or mother tongues to be given recognition by the state government as language, to be included in the age schedule, to be taught at the PG level or even college level. But in primary or elementary education, they don't want their mother tongues and languages to be there. So we need to educate people, make them understand by having more conversations with them and without being biased. At times, what happens that there are hidden agenda sometimes that the government wants something to happen. That's why they take a different step. For example, we have a case of Rajvamshi mother tongue in West Bengal, where the government doesn't want it. Or there is a mother tongue called Chhau Bhasha or Chhai Bhasha in West Bengal. It is spoken by more than 3 lakh persons. Malda and other areas, the people who actually were in Bihar, and when we had separation from Bihar, then these people, these districts came to West Bengal. So actually they were speaking a variety of Maithili. And after separation of Bengal from as a state, what happened? These people went into West Bengal, but the government policies, they never mentioned this mother tongue, the Sai Bhasha, even if they have lakhs of speakers, but they have all become bilingual and they are fluent in Bangla, so they manage. This situation exists in almost all the states where we have mother tongues, smaller mother tongues, or smaller languages like Toda and Kota, Ilula in South, but they have been given to understand that you are not language, you don't have respect, you are not fit for becoming a language and come to school education or administration, mass media, etc. So they remain at the margin. This is what Professor Ajit Kumar Mohanty calls the vicious circle. Number one, that, and Professor Deva also mentioned this morning, that the society, the political, say, the regime, like it's a hidden agenda kind of thing. They don't make it official or very explicit, but that is understood that first we keep them away from the mainstream. That is, in terms of linguistically, we say that we do not prepare grammars, dictionaries, or even teaching materials in these mother tongues or even smaller languages. And then, as Professor Mohanty says, that we tell them that now see, you are not prepared, you do not have these things in your language, so how you are not fit. So how can you come to the mainstream? How can you get the benefits that the languages, bigger languages like Kannada, Telugu, Assamese, Bangla, Hindi are getting, because you are not prepared, you don't have these things. So that also needs to be worked out. And as Professor Deva also rightly mentioned, that it's not the duty, even Meghnathan hinted at it, that it's not the duty of one organization or one agency. We all have to come together and then have a planning so that we do not work in isolation. What SCRTs do, what state governments plan, what NCRT does, what CIL does, all these institutions, they work separately. What CSCT does is separate. So we should come together and then have a proper planning so that no language or mother tongue, as Professor Deva said, rightly said, that even if there is only one person, he or she has the right to get the benefit of all the policies and all the say advantages that are given by the government and society. So they do have the right. So they should come in there. Now, coming to the question of minority, we also have confusion about minority language. Actually, see, in 1958, as I remember, Supreme Court of India had given an judgment where it said there was a case, and the Supreme Court of India said that a language is a minority if it is spoken by less than 50%, 50% of the population. So actually, at the national level, we do not have any any majority language. Even Hindi, officially, as 2011 census, it has not crossed the limit of 50%. So if we have, say, 42 crore Hindi speakers according to 2011 census, and even if we include, say, the secondary, subsidiary Hindi language speakers, we have not crossed, say, at more than 60 crore. So even today, Hindi even is not a majority language in India. So all languages at national level are minority languages, and minority languages exist only at the level of state and also districts. And another thing that is important is that it's not necessary that once a minority language, always a minority language in a state or at district level, and vice versa. Once a majority language, always a majority language, no. At the same time, a same language can be a majority language and also a minority language. And as Professor Deva and Meghnathan already have told you that take example of, say, Telugu or Kannada or Tulu in the south. So if there are lots of Telugu speakers in Tamil Nadu, so Telugu is a majority language within the state of Andhra Pradesh. Similarly, Bangla is a majority language within the state of West Bengal. Tulu, is a majority language in Karnataka. So, or Kannada is a majority language in Karnataka. But Kannada, Tulu, Bangla, Telugu, outside their states, native states, they are not majority languages. They are minority languages. So we also have to make a plan. We have to do planning in such a way that we take care of both. The minority languages, all languages are minority, but they can be in a district, they can be a majority language. For example, Karbi or Dimasa in Assam. So within the state, Assamese is a majority language, regional language, but in certain autonomous district councils or in Mizoram, like say in a district council or Lakher or Mara in certain district council or Chakma, they are majority languages. But given the overall situation of state, they are minority languages. So we have to do planning accordingly. That we have 2-3 methods of planning. We should not have one fits for all kind of situation. That okay, don't consider Assamese as majority or Bangla, Telugu or Kannada majority. They can be minority languages when they are in non-native states. So they have also these children belonging to these speech communities who are not in their state. They also have to be taken care of. And similarly, I give the example of Karbi, Lai or Mara, Dimasa, where say within a certain domain, certain area, autonomous district council, they can be majority. But outside it, they are not majority languages. So what needs to be done? Many speakers have already talked about it a little bit emphasize on that is that, see, what matters for the minority languages, all languages are minority languages in essence. So what happens is that we need to expand the domains of these languages, the so-called minority languages, expansion of the use, the domains of use of these languages, and also it's not enough to have more domains. The domains have to be, say, transparent. That means there has to be functional load, has to be increased, functional load of a language. Then that load, functional load is not enough. It has to be functionally transparent. That means if the particular language is used in a particular domain, then that domain should be reserved for that particular language. You cannot have two or three languages or mother tongues competing in the same domain. So like in education, if you say that we include the Dimasa also, Hindi and English, and so they cannot be all the time, the three languages all the time. So that will reduce the functional load. So reserve that for particular language. So there should be a functional transparency when we talk about functional load. So if we choose, as it has been suggested in NEP 2020, after many decades, that if you have chosen that Dimasa will be used in school as medium of instruction, then reserve it only for Dimasa for at least certain years, as they mentioned that up to 5. And actually I would suggest that why only up to 5? Then it goes out of use from class 6. So why not continue it till at least higher secondary, till at least class 12? And the better situation will be if the same language continues up to post-graduation. Why this kind of casteism? Like look at the example of Nagaland. We have Angami, it is taught up to post-graduation level, everything is done. Why not other Naga languages? Why not Ao, Phom, Pochuri, Rengma, Sangtam, Lotha? Why all of them are not used at least at graduation level? Why only one? And by virtue of being taught at graduation level, having lot of literature, now they have applied for inclusion in 8th schedule. So see, this casteism has in language also has, yeah, I'm finishing, I'm concluding. Okay. So that also has to go away. So if we take care of this, and then lastly, I would say that see, teacher preparation and difference between first language and second language, that also has to be emphasized. People have to be made aware that teaching of second language is different from teaching of first language. So far, see, we, the linguists understand, the stakeholders like NCERT or CIL, scholars, they will understand that what is L1 teaching and what is L2 teaching. But that doesn't transact into reality. The ones who are using these languages, the teachers, they are not prepared. They are not trained. So we also need to take care of that. We talk about materials. See, as I already mentioned, that there are no grammar or dictionary. So when we want to implement this thing that language should be used as mother tongue, we do not have scientific and technical terms ready. And also the script, all the scripts are there. Whichever is a language, like 120 languages are used as subject and about 35 as medium of instruction in India, they all have script. It's not indigenous. They use some borrowed script like Roman, Devanagari, Odia, Assamese, Tamil, Telugu, and so on. No harm in that, but that needs to be standardized. So even if a language like say Tangkhul or Kom or Maram or Mao in Manipur, they or Naga languages, they borrowed Roman, they use Roman, but their Roman is treated as if at par with the Roman for the English language. That is not good. So it should be adapted differently for different languages and also made standard. So if we take care of these things, that is, lastly, I will say that the socio-political concepts have to be taken together. The society and the politics, they have to go together because people want one thing and government wants another thing. So either they have to come to a term with a common platform that, okay, this will be language and it should go in education, or even a mother tongue, we should go in school education. And then, as all the speakers have already mentioned it, so I'll not elaborate upon that. That materials and methods, teachers, they have to be in place for real implementation of mother tongue or language education at the school level at least. Thank you all. Yeah, that's all for now.
Thank you, sir, for illustrating on the various issues of minority language and mother tongue issues. It was a great experience listening to a linguistic authority of India like you. And I'm really indebted, and I know all the participants who have joined in also must have benefited from your lecture on critical issues and policy perspectives on minority language education.
Thank you. Thank you.
We also understand that there are a lot of challenges that confront the policymakers, planners, and implementers. And I understand that the coordinators of these programs are also going to put forward these recommendations, and whatever will come up from all the talks, lead speakers, to the government in the right forum. We understand that language policies are born amidst the complex interplay of social, cultural, religious, and political forces, which you have reiterated in your speech.
Thank
And
you.
I have also learned that it is not necessary that once a minority language will always be a minority language, or the vice versa with the majority language too. So I would like to express heartfelt gratitude from the entire NERIE fraternity to you for sparing your time
Thank
and
you. My pleasure.
addressing the participants as well as enlightening the house with such a wonderful speech. I
Thank
know
you. Thank you.
many of the participants may have some questions or observations, but we will take that later because of the paucity of time. I would like to invite the next lead speaker for today, Professor Sandhya Sahu from RI Bhubaneswar. Madam, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Yes. Thank you. I would like to introduce our second lead speaker for the day, Professor Sandhya Sahu, who is with the Department of Languages and Regional Institute of Education, Bhubaneswar. She has a long career with the NCERT. More than 3 decades, she has served the NCERT since 1984. She has worked with the curriculum development, National Curriculum Framework for School Education 2000, and also 2000 NCF 2005. Now, after National Education Policy 2020 and working for new NCF language education, she is involved with training for teachers and teacher educators, nationwide teacher training program for Nishtha, which has rolled since 2019. And she is also associated with development of language curriculum and syllabus for classes 1 to 12, development of textbooks, workbooks, and supplementary readers for classes 1 to 12, development of learning outcomes for elementary stage and secondary stage. She has conducted training on learning outcomes all over the country and is now working on development of learning outcomes for classes 11 and 12. She has attended many national and international seminars on ELT, presented papers, chaired sessions, delivered keynote address, and was panelist in many seminars. In this capacity, she had also widely traveled across the world and had gone to Singapore, UK, New York, Hawaii, Washington, Bradford, Leeds, Germany, guided many PhD scholars and many more to her credit. And with this brief introduction about her, I invite Madam Sandhya Sahu to deliver her lecture on the critical issues and policy perspectives on minority language education. Madam, the time is all yours now, and
Thank you. So,
we'll be happy
uh,
to wind up within half an hour's time.
okay, I was thinking of that. How much time should I get? Okay.
Yes,
Thank,
yes. I know you
thank you
are
so much.
all your time. Thank you, madam.
So now it's till 3:30. I'll go. Now it is 2:57. Around 3 o'clock. So around 3:25, 30. Okay.
Okay, ma'am, 3:15, 3:20 would be very good. But
Uh,
3:25. Okay, fine, ma'am.
because I need also half an hour time.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I understand.
But I'll try to finish early. But let me
Okay.
see if I can. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So,
Thank you.
good afternoon, friends, my dear colleagues, and esteemed principal, Neri Shillong, and my chairperson, Professor Abdesh Kumar Mishra, and the moderator, Dr. Tulika De, Melissa, and Saryug, Sarju Bala, and all. So, and all my dear participants, and very good afternoon to all of you. And already the stage has been set, and Professor Abdesh Kumar has already elaborated upon the issues. Where is my? How can I? I can't see myself. So he has already told us about the language situations in India, and the minority, the position of minority languages, and what are minority language, and what we call minority language, and what we do not call minority language, and all majority languages and all. So he has very elaborately and in detailed manner has already showed us the scene of language, presence of languages in our educational scenario and in the country in general. So thank you, Dr. Abdes, for appraising us about the position of languages. Okay, and now actually, since this is the topic is given to us is critical issues and policy perspectives on minority language education, policy perspectives on minority language education. So I'll stick to this only, and I'll start with there are few points that I would like to make, because this is policy perspective. So whatever we say here, maybe it will be heard by the people who are there to design the policies and to frame the policies and to do something concrete for the development for providing minority language education to our minority children. Okay, so that I'll stick to this only, because already for last 1.5 days we are listening to all the position of languages. Everybody is talking about language, the problems, and then some of the critical issues also they have reflected when they spoke. So I don't want to go deep into all that. All the details I will not talk about. So my work is now reduced to only the critical issues and the minority language so far as the policy perspectives are concerned. Okay. So I think I will show you my first slide. Okay, can you see the slide? Tulika,
Yes,
is it
yes, ma'am.
okay? Good. Okay, good. Now this is about critical issues and policy perspectives on minority language education. Okay. So first we will say that we will just a brief idea about, because already it has been told. So I'll just give a brief idea about what are the linguistic diversity in India. What is it? Okay. So people have already mentioned about 1961 census, 71 to 2011. So so if you look at all the census data, you will find that in 1961 census of India, it has been recorded that 101,652 languages are being used in India that time. Okay. However, it was decided to exclude languages spoken by less than 10,000 people in 1971 census, which actually brought down the figure of languages taught in the school and majority languages to 108 languages. Even People's Linguistic Survey of India, they have also mentioned that in multilingual India, there are 780 languages written in 60 written languages, so we have 66 written scripts, and we have 22 scheduled languages and 1,369 rationalized mother tongues, 1,474 unclassified languages, and in 2021 census, it reveals that 96.71% India's population, they speak the scheduled languages, the 22 scheduled languages, and 3.29% speak the majority languages. So now, 3.29% speak the minority languages. Now you see, like this minority languages, it is spoken by only 3.29%, but there are so many minority languages, so many. Okay, so there are various inhibitions among linguists as to how many languages, because now Professor Abdesh Kumar talked about data, then Meghanathan gave her data, Professor Sachdeva gave her data. So all our speakers, they have given different types of data, number of languages, nobody, I mean, there is no concrete evidence that this is the number of languages which are minority languages. We do not have that data, because there are so many dialects exist all over, and it makes it uncertain to say the exact number of languages spoken in India. It's very difficult to say. I'll give you an example. So one of the oldest attempts done by Sir G.A. Grierson, he identified only 179 languages and 554 dialects, and this is also notably mentioned in the Linguistic Survey of India. For example, I'll give you an example how we cannot just tell that how many languages exist, dialects exist, or minority languages exist in our country. If you look at Assam, so this Linguistic Survey of India, when they the data says that a northeastern Indian state Assam and the central Indian state Madhya Pradesh, whose tribal populations are 7% and 22% respectively of the total tribal population of the country, the 22 tribes of Assam have 60 mother tongues, grouped into 40 languages, and 58 tribes of Madhya Pradesh have 93 mother tongues grouped into 38 languages. So there are 38 languages, but tongues are 93. And there is 40 languages, but mother tongues are 60. Okay, so likewise, if you go to Nagaland, if you go to Manipur, if you go to Arunachal Pradesh, even in Odisha, in the tribal district of Odisha, if you go to Mayurbhanj, if you go to Baripada, to all the places, you will find that there are a number of languages. Okay, and I got a data from Nagaland recently, when they say that in Nagaland there are, there are some data in Manipur. They say that there is a language called Tangkhul, and has a variety of mutually unintelligible languages while claiming to the speaker of the same language. They say that we speak the same language, but there are variety in Tangkhul also. So in Manipur, government recognized 6 languages as subject of instruction 1969. Out of these 6, only one language, Paite, has developed TLM. When we talk about languages, we talk about language education, we talk about minority languages. So we do not have we do not see the presence of these languages in our school education. Okay, if you don't have the presence of languages in school education, obviously we try to forget that there are so many minority languages exist in our country. But our constitution, it has notified that what are the minority languages for the constitution. They have notified the minority communities based on religious and linguistic minorities like Sikh, Muslim, Christians, Zoroastrians, Buddhists, and Jains. They are actually notified. They are notified as minority communities. But however, the linguistic minority, they refer broadly to those people whose language or spoken variety is either not recognized by the government at the national level or is not recognized regional language where they live. So there are so many minority languages. They are not minorities, like as Professor Abdes has said, that in some places the language is majority. For example, Odia. Odia is majority in Orissa. But when it go to the West Bengal, when it goes to Andhra Pradesh, so the Odia is a minority language. Even Chhattisgarh, even Jharkhand, Odia is a minority language. In the same way, there are many languages exist in a state with another majority language. But we do not take them into account. So the linguistic minorities, they refer broadly to those people whose spoken language, spoken variety, whose language, whose spoken variety, they are not recognized by the state, by the government. Okay, and the speaker of minorities languages may not necessarily be numerical minorities in their region. There are so many language speakers. The number is mostly almost some more than 10,000. They say that is below 10,000, then they are not they are not listed. But there are so many languages. People speak. Number of speakers are more. So the speaker of minority languages may not necessarily be numerical minorities in the region, but some groups considered to be linguistic minorities in India since their language is not among 22 nationally recognized languages and they have the population of 3 millions. 3 million people they speak the language. Even then, they are not in the scheduled language and they are not called as the minority languages as notified or by the Constitution of India. So, if you look at, because we did a study last year only on three language implementation of three language formula issues and in what context and how this implementation has been conducted or has been done in schools. We found was quite encouraging to find because this is SCRT data. Okay, and SCRT has given to us in Nagaland. There are so many languages offered in primary and upper primary. English is there, of course, but Tinide, Ao, Sumi, Lotha, Rengma, and then two types of Rengma, then Jeme, Liang Mai, Kuki, and there are almost 18 to 20 languages, including Hindi, they are offering to the students. Okay, and in Odisha also we have, but Odisha it is not, Persian is included, but no tribal language is included. And if you go to like Arunachal Pradesh, if you go to Manipur, because these all northeastern states, the CRT data says that they provide a number of tribal languages to the students to study. For example, Arunachal Pradesh, they provide English, Hindi. Apart from that, they provide Adi, Galo, Khamti, and Nishi, Bhuti, and also Sanskrit. In Assam also they have Assamese, Bengali, Bodo, Garo, Nepali, Hmar, Manipuri, Hindi, English, and Karbi. So, in likewise in Himachal Pradesh, in Sikkim, there are in Manipur, in Sikkim, they have number of languages, tribal languages offered to the students, to the students in the class. So when I spoke to SCRT people in Sikkim, they were very happy. But only thing is that gradually these number of languages offered at primary or upper primary, and also in some languages in secondary, but when they come to higher secondary, the number of languages is reduced very like you will not find the same languages in secondary stage, less in secondary and no, almost no in senior secondary. So that is why when Professor Abdes says that these languages they are not offered at secondary stage or senior secondary stage, only in the in MA, masters, and PhD and all that. But it should continue. If it is offered at primary or elementary or secondary, it should also continue to higher secondary. So if you look at the three language formula also, you will find that mostly these languages are offered as third language. And Khasi, Garo, and Hindi is also offered as third language. So, and in Nagaland, you will be surprised that the languages that offered till secondary, in the third language is only Hindi. So what I want to say is that if you look at the languages available in schools, it is quite you feel happy at primary stage, at elementary stage. We have variety of languages offered to the students. Okay, but when we go up, it is not so. And another data also says that despite India's stand to promote minority language with all the policies and constitutional mandate, the sixth All India survey, educational survey done by NCERT. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So our sixth educational survey like in 1999, it shows that in India only 49 languages are currently used either as the subject of instruction or as medium of instruction. The figure has declined from 81 in 1970. It was 81 in 1999. So this shows that
Hello. Madam, you unmute yourself. She has left the meeting. Oh,
Ma'am, are you still online?
Melissa, do
Yes.
you have her contact number? Please call
Yes,
her.
yes, I'm calling her now.
She has left the meeting.
I think there's some problem with her network. Just hang on, I'm calling her.
हाँ हाँ मॉडल ठीक है हाँ हाँ कौन मैडम को अच्छा ठीक है
I think she's trying to connect because she's not picking up the phone. Talika, you can hear me?
Yes, Melissa, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm still calling her and
Yeah.
she's not picking up. I think there's some problem with her
What
because
do
she's
you
connecting
do?
from her phone. So,
I'm doing. Mishra sir, are you there online?
Yes, yes.
So, as a chairperson, sir, what we should be doing? Should we take some questions if some of the participants want to it for you?
Right. Yeah. That would be better. Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Thank you, sir. Uh, as Melissa connects to the our second lead speaker, I would now like to call upon the participants. If you have any questions or any observations for Professor
Problem है
Mishra, you can
problem है सटागा
put your questions. Please unmute yourself and you can put your questions or
Yeah.
observations for Professor A.K. Mishra.
Right. Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I can see that some Mr. Beam has unmuted.
Mhm.
Nemo Rashid has unmuted. If you have any questions, please.
Mr. Sir, am I audible? Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Right. Good afternoon. Yeah, go ahead.
As we are now we are in Tripura, but what we are looking that majority of the student who are studying in the CBSE school and the others, and they are not able to write and read the Bengali.
Hmm.
They can speak, but they can't able to write and read the Bengali. So that what actually that the Bengali is the here is a majority language, but in the other language, what we have found they are going to that minority part because they are not using it at all. So, what suggestion from your side? What we can do for that one?
Are they studying Bangla in Tripura? The so-called minority language speakers, like Kokborok children, do they study Bangla in CBSE school?
No, sir. Actually, they are not studying their own mother tongue language. They are just taking that Hindi either in the English, like in the CBSE schools, in that Kendriya
Ah,
Vidyalaya. What in our observation, some Bengali student
right.
also. They are not able to
Ah,
read Bengali and they are not able to write Bengali, but they can speak the Bengali.
right. So, see, actually, written language is acquired. It's spoken language is also acquired, but that is inbuilt. Once a person knows like one language, then she can also acquire another language, spoken language, if she has the input, if she interacts with the person speaking that language. But writing, written language is a different skill. Yeah, someone has to learn it. So if they are not taught Bangla language in CBSE school or central school, then they will not learn writing. But why do you worry so much about that? It's
Actually, sir,
enough.
the
Like,
worried
see,
the worried the thing is there. What in the teacher related test examination? What we have found, they are belong to from Bengali background, but majority are they are fail in the Bengali subject. That
okay.
Bengali,
So,
that is the reason.
huh. So since in central school, like other than Hindi, English, the writing skill is not given in any other language, so that problem will remain. We can't do anything. But if a person wants to write in Bangla in that examination, then that person has to learn how to write. You cannot blame the school for that. This is what
No,
I
no,
am saying.
So we are not blaming to the schools. The problem actually later on when the child is going after to 12th or degree, and when they are going to be a teacher in that particular state government, and they are not able to write the Bengali, and they
I
are
got
not
your
able to
point,
read the
sir.
Bengali.
That's why. That's why this the idea of three language formula. That's why it's very good. If it is implemented in letter and spirit, then it's really good. So what would have happened? They would have learnt Hindi, English, and also the regional language, which is Bangla in Tripura. So then they could have been better off. But what happens? Because only two languages are followed. That's why this problem. So they have to there has to be some provision for these students. If they have learned English and Hindi well, why not learn Bangla also? Because they speak Bangla, so it's not difficult. If a person is fluent in spoken language, then she can easily learn how to write it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there any other participant? If not,
Hello.
sir, should we take up the paper presentation?
Hello.
Yes.
I have one
Yeah.
question.
Let's start with.
Hi, I'm
Acha,
Suzy.
okay.
Yeah, one more question.
Sir, yes. You were talking about certain cases of Manipur. Basically, I'm from Manipur. You were talking about how some tribes, some similar tribes having similar language, and how mother tongue should be implemented in that regard. My question is about. So I'll be presenting a paper later on. It's about my tribe, basically Maring, which have three language variation. So,
Right.
what in such scenario, in such cases, how do you think mother tongue language can be implemented? Because
Right.
that is one
See,
problem,
very good.
one reason, yeah, why
Yeah,
it's been hard
true,
for my
true,
community
true.
to implement mother
Ah,
tongue education.
see, this is as a linguist, you know that what happens. It's dialect is reality, and language is only an abstract construct. So, if all the three varieties of Maring, say like they want to have it, and like you have Kadu, no, or some, no,
Koibu.
that is Koibu, Koibu, then Kadu, no, no,
No, no. It's Koibu, Mering, and Ramyang.
Uipo. Acha, acha, okay.
Uipo is Koibu, basically. Like, it's the same
Okay,
name.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Uipo,
so
so
now,
it's Mering,
right,
Uipo, and Mongmi. Yeah.
right. So what happens? See, you cannot give the same status to all the varieties in all the domains. Certain varieties will always remain in the home domain. So only one of the varieties can go in the formal domains, that is education, school education, or mass media and administration. You cannot put all. Then it's burden on the one side, and also that will create problem for people. You do not you all the time divided. So it depends on the Marine speaking communities that they get together, and then they decide that okay, this variety is either spoken by more number of persons, or that has some say if a Bible has been translated in a particular variety, some writings are there, some literature is there, and that is understood by all the three communities, all the three varieties of Maring, then that variety should go in school education. Yes, I, as a linguist, I feel that, and also as a questionist, that it's not good to have all the varieties of the same language if there is not complete, like say, mutual unintelligibility. Then only one variety should go in these domains, and others can be. This is true for all the languages of the world. See, Arabic has so many varieties, Tamil has so many varieties, English has so many varieties. But the moment we go to school education, administration, and mass media, we choose one, isn't it? That is true for English also. Same is true for Bangla also. Same is true for Manipuri also. You have, say, Kaching or Karkul or Andhro or Sangmai. You do not start writing newspapers or using all the varieties. See, in certain context, you can use that. But when it is for the general Manipuri community, then you will not have any material
in all the varieties. Adro also, Sagmai also, Kurkul also, and see many Bengal also. That you cannot do. But in school education, so what is the problem? If you have a standard marine variety, with the textbooks are
Sir,
written in that, but teacher
the
teacher can always use teacher students. Yes,
so the problem is that, like, for example, Maring and Oipu is a little bit similar, but the third one, that's a little bit
yeah.
different in the sense, like, so it's basically, it's like, the third language
Lexical
is
and
not,
phonological. Lexical and
yes,
phonological differences, yeah, because of that.
yes, yes,
So
very
what I'm
much so.
suggesting is that let's have
Mm,
Maring, the standard Maring, whether it can be Koibu also. And in
mm,
school, it's not a problem. Even if there are so many varieties, the teacher has to be familiar with those varieties and let the students use that variety in class. What Meghnathan said, like translanguaging, and also it can be transdialecting, no problem. So various dialects in the same classroom can be used. But the moment you use a textbook or a newspaper, TV, administration, then only one variety has to go there. You cannot have all, and that creates a problem. And we are familiar. You must be familiar with what happened in Churachandpur area. Like, see,
mm,
Paite, Wi-Fi, Tado, they can understand each other very well. More than
yes,
90% similarity is there. But when it
mm,
comes to using it in radio or TV, then they start fighting that no, my no language should be. That doesn't happen. It's mutually intelligible. Even all the three varieties of Maring, as I have seen from the thesis of Kumba, and then I think Pinky has worked from Nagaland on Koibu, and even one of my students is working on Koibu. Yeah, here in PhD. So what happens is that lexical and phonological variations will be there in all the languages. That you cannot avoid. But once you choose a formal domain, then there we have to forget the fight among the dialects or among the mother tongues. That you have to forget. We have to
mm,
look for standard. But that is the process how a variety becomes a standard, isn't it? That you
yes,
cannot
yes,
avoid. You cannot have all. That creates confusion. And that's why you will know from Manipur that because of this, what has happened, even the government takes advantage of that, isn't it? The political
yes,
system.
very much so.
They know that they are
Yes,
fighting, so they will not give you teachers, they will not give you money. See, there are 29, 30 languages in school education, but only 2 lakh rupees given in 5 years. Only, say, 5 teachers are given. Nothing happens because they keep you busy, give recognition that, okay, you are there in school, but
mm,
in reality, nothing is given to you. So we have that is the time when we have to forget our rivalry, and this will happen. The variety is a reality that you cannot avoid. You cannot make all the varieties of a language standard and use it in all the domains. I think I have answered you.
yes, sir.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
more or
And if
Thank
the
you.
chair permits, if the chair permits, can we start
Yeah,
the
yeah.
presentation of the paper,
Sure,
sir?
sure. We should.
Okay. As of now, let
And
me
then we'll
announce
hear
that
Madam
we
Sandhya
are
Sahu
now in
later.
connection with
Tulika.
Professor Sandhya Sahu. And
Right.
so, since she is unable to connect, we will start the technical session. And
Yeah,
we
go
have
ahead.
7 papers to be presented in this session. And I hope all the participants are present. Let me once call out their names. So you be ready for your chance. Shisha Denla Walling, the first paper presenter. The second is of Anjan Banik. Third is Dr. P.S. Stewart. Fourth, Jawahar S. Then next is Lunminthang Guite. Next is Kanshoa Susi. And the last paper will be by Dr. Melissa. Uh, Sir, can we begin?
Yeah, yeah. And
And
Tulika,
I think
if they all the
we are
one
running
minute.
short of time. Can the timing be of 8 minutes per paper presentation?
Right. So, Tulika,
Yes,
this is
sir.
for all the paper presenters. See, you may have submitted 5, 6 pages of your paper. Don't read everything. Or
Yes.
if you have, say, 30 PowerPoints, don't read it. just you kind of introduction that what you are talking about and what your findings are and conclusion. That would be better for us to understand.
Yes.
And papers you have already submitted. That will suffice the purpose. That will be included in the proceedings and so on. Right now, you just these three things: introduction, then your findings and conclusion, your suggestion, etc. Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
thank you, sir. So 8 minutes
Melissa,
for your paper
Melissa,
presentation. Yes, Melissa.
Miss Lianboy is here.
Yes.
Lianboy, are you presenting today as per the schedule? It is yours today.
Okay. Okay then.
No,
So
no, no.
Melissa,
Just hang on.
you will be presenting tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, then I'll take
Okay.
in your slot. Okay, fine. Good.
Okay.
Okay.
So the fifth paper presenter will be Dr. Lianboy YP.
Okay.
So as sir has,
Melissa.
yeah,
Yeah.
as the chairperson have mentioned, presenters, please restrict yourself to the objectives of your paper, findings, and then conclude. Do not waste your time. We are running short of time. So just 8 minutes for your paper presentation, and we take up all the questions for at the end of all the paper presentation.
Right.
Thank you. So the first presenter, Shishadinla, the paper is on role of an intermediate Pidgin in the multilingual reality of Mokokchung town.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let me set up my slides first. Okay, is my slide visible?
It's coming. It's coming. It'll come. Yeah. Visible now.
Okay. Afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizing committee, the chair, and moderator for giving me this opportunity. The title of my presentation is Role of an Intermediate Region in the Multilingual Reality of Mokokchung. Now, let me begin by quickly giving a brief outline on the scenario of government schools in Mokokchung town and the medium of instruction. Now, in Nagaland, the medium of instruction in government schools is English, but due to the high intertribal representation, especially in Mokokchung, with different linguistic identity, students' lack of English language competence, the medium of communication in most classrooms is the Pidgin Nagamese, which basically functions as the link language or the lingua franca in Nagaland for tribal communication. And in the context of government school education in Mokokchung, where the majority speakers speak Ao, Nagamese functions as an alternative medium of instruction in classroom teaching as well, because learners have little exposure to English outside school, and there is little mutual intelligibility for students from different language groups. What is interesting is Nagami, which now have a knowledgeable is extensively used as the preferred alternative medium of instruction in the teaching of Ao as an Amile subject to non-Ao speakers. But this is worrisome because although Aos are the majority community in Mokokchung, the Ao language is still one of the minority languages of India and faces endangerment if not allowed to thrive. So the for government schools were selected schools and to extension from the community as one of our subject teachers. Now let's quickly give at the language and education. Ours are one of the 16 major tribal communities in Nagaland. The domicile is the district Mokokchung, and then native language spoken is Ao, which is the dialectal variation, Jungli, Mungsin, and Chanki, and out of which Jungli is the standard dialect for formal sections in both oral and written, and follow the rules. The most educated community among the Nagas, as you can see from the 91.662% is the literacy rate according to 2011 census. And according to latest UDISC 2019 to 20, a total number of 3,348 children are enrolled as government school students under Mukuktung municipal area. Now, let me just give a quick. Let's just have a quick look on what Nagamis is all about. You know, from a linguistic perspective, it is a pidgin undergoing creolization because it is widely spoken as the first language, especially among the younger generation, as a result of intertribal languages and its use in several environments. Um, it has also begun to be used as a popular platform in both social and mass media, and the linguistic features of Nagamis are quite unique. It neither has a script nor a written grammar yet, but because it serves as a lingua franca within the various linguistic groups of Nagaland, there's so much of difference in its classroom transactions. So Nagamis holds a unique position in language education in the state, as it does not come under the ambit of the three language formula mandated for school education in India. So um, we also see that Nagaland in Nagaland, Nagamis is not the first language of any indigenous tribe. It's not a state or regional language. It is not even a second language, as it is not used in official communication, signage, or in education. In fact, regions have not occupied any significant place in India's national language policies, and their status remains undefined. The case of Nagamis offers opportunity to investigate the unique language operations that are part of India's linguistic heritage. Now, yes, as we can see from the table, the neighboring tribal communities dominates the classrooms. There are a few reasons as to why this happened, and one of the major reasons is because these tribal representations come from very rural and interior areas that belong to economically deprived families. Their only source of survival is small scale farming. So parents have a hard time, trying to make the ends meet. So these children are sent or are brought to nearby towns to, pursue education from government schools, and are helped by relative people who are willing to, help them, who understand the socioeconomic features and help them. And another reason is also because those who are settled in the town and who have substantial income, very far they have this belief that English private school provide education. So because of all this, the number of children in government schools in actual town have been increasing since the last 3 decades. The number of children from other tribes continues to increase. Um, so this looked at the complex, scenario in which Nagami is used to teach out to now students and try to explore the outcomes of choice. Let me just quickly go to the next slides. Um, it is evident from the table that the dominating number of our non-our tribal in these schools determines why they are subject to teach use Nagami as a native medium of instruction, irrespective of its syntactical and grammatical limitations. And it was quite interesting to find how responses of both teachers and students were similar in many ways. The following, slides will show a couple of samples of the interviews conducted with both the teachers and students. But let me just quickly go to the next slide. So, according to both the teachers and students' responses, it is understood that the greater portion of the challenges rests on the shoulders of the subject teachers. Some of the challenges are, as you can see, scarcity of our speakers and larger presence of other minority language speakers makes teachers difficult to teach literacy in our to the language itself. The extreme multilingualism compelled them to communicate in Nagamese, and then because of the cultural terminologies and phrases, it's very difficult for them to uh, give the equivalent translations in Nagamese for the teachers. And then summarizing in Nagamese and our alternatively several times, which consumes a lot of time in the classroom. Teachers have to adjust with new students who join in the middle of the academic session, and then trying to help them cope with the old times, and then connecting with Nagamese English, and this does a lot of the students have a hard time trying to understand the text content of text content of the our subject. And then some of the teachers have also expressed they need some kind of materials to teach out in Nagamese. So it is found that most students come with inadequate or no competence in AO when they first join school. Yet they choose AO as their MIL subject, and this is possibly an outcome of an additional attitudinal influence. These are students of ethnical and linguistic minorities believe that learning the language of the majority and community has economic and social advantage. Nonetheless, these children prefer their teacher to explain it in language. So their rationale behind learning the language,
Uh,
oh, and
may
their
I
pathways towards.
request you
Yes, ma'am,
to
I'm just
conclude the
concluding.
paper? You have crossed your time limit. Please wind
Yes,
up.
I'm just. Yes,
Yes.
ma'am, I'm just concluding. So, to integrate reality in the teaching and learning of our through Nagamis as an alternate medium of instruction in the daily challenge faced by the teacher is a complex education variation attention. So, this small scale concludes with thought whether the use of a pigeon as the medium of classroom transaction would undermine the minority language like OW, and if so, in what ways can Indian language policy accommodates complex linguistic realities where the issues of mother tongue remain contested. So that's all. So much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's
We will-
go to the next paper.
yes, we'll take the next paper of Mr. Anjan Banik, Impact of Linguistic Barriers in Science Education at National Level and Innovations. Mr. Anjan Banik, are you there? See in the participants list. No, I think Mr. Anjan Banik is not connected. So we will move on to the next paper. Dr. P.A. Stewart, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. Okay, so kindly present your paper on issues and challenges in the study of Thankul literature.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry I will not be showing my PPT, but I'll be going directly to my paper. And
Okay, sir.
the title of my paper is Issues and Challenges in the Study of Thankul Literature. The Thankul is one of the indigenous and the Shala tribe of Manipur, inhabiting mainly in the Kamjong and Ukhrul district of the state. There are different opinions about the origin of the Tangkus, but most importantly, through folk tales and folk songs, it was claimed that they were living at Samsok in Myanmar, from where they came to the present land. The Tangkus, like many tribal communities, don't have their script, which they believed, and they have their own saying that their script, which was written on the dried skin of animals, was eaten away by dogs. And so, to trace the history, culture, traditions, etc., has to be done through the folk tales and folk songs. And it has to be noted that the Tangkul villages speak different dialects of their own. And one of the reasons for speaking different dialects will be because of the cat hunting culture prevailing during the olden days. But if a proper linguistic study is done, we can say there cannot be more than 30 dialects because a dialect is spoken in a region or the neighboring villages can understand and communicate with one another with their own village dialect. But with the coming of Reverend William Pettigrew, Kunpun dialect or the Yukrul dialect, which has now become the Tangkul language, is made the common language of the Tangkuls since Pettigrew. He started his missionary work and school first there in Hunpun or Ukrul. So this language, now the Tangkul language, unifies the Tangkuls and it gives a feeling of oneness among the Tangkuls. But before the advent of the Western education, there has been a well developed system of imparting basic skills for social and economic survival, depending entirely on the oral tradition through the morung or the dormitory system, which they call longshim in the Tangku dialect. Okay? And one local writer by the name R.R. Shimre, in his book Origin of Culture of Naka, 1985, has rightly termed the dormitory institution as the Naka school. But after the arrival of the Christianity, they had abandoned and discarded the ancient cultures and traditions which they had been in practice since time immemorial. Persecutions on the new converts were very harsh, that they refused to sing the songs they used to sing before they were converted into Christianity. The colonizers, we all know, they believe that they are superior and they are ordained to rule us. And the colonizers usually, in the process of colonization, they impose their religion, their traditions, their customs and all. After post-independence, okay, it brought awareness on rescuing the past glories, the myths, the legends, the cultures, okay, and the traditions which were on the verge of extinction with the dying of all people, because there was no written record. It has to be passed down from generation to generation orally. Now, if we see the status of Tangkhul language or the Tangkhul literature, the Tangkhul subject is studied in the state board till class 12. But then there is a sharp decline in the number of students offering Tangkhul from class 10 to class 12. From around 3,000 students offering Tangkhul in the class 10, we have just around 600 students offering Tangkhul in the 12th level. When we study the reason, it is found out that many students, they went out of the state for higher studies, but even for those students who are willing to study in the state, those who are outside the district, that is Ukhrul district, they don't have the option to offer Tangkhul, okay, on the excuse of non-availability of teachers. So students who have to offer Tangkhul till 12, they have to be in the same district. And again, after that, after class 12, they have got no other option, but they have to choose, they have to change to some other subjects again for higher studies. Not only in the state board, even in the CPSC, Tangkhul subject is studied till class 12. But schools like Kendriya Vidyalaya, which is there in the district, where 95% of the students are the local native, Tangkhul language has become a minority language there, where Tangkhul is not allowed to be spoken there. And therefore, the native, the local people are given the perception, the idea that Tangkhul as a subject and as a language is of no importance. It has no future prospect and is not worth preserving. But if we study, we have scores of poems, we have scores of short stories, everything written by different writers. Coming to my conclusion, we say that literature is the mirror of the society. But for the Tangkhuls, the mirror is still shrouded in mystery and still we cannot see our reflection clearly. So to retrieve the abundant history, culture, we need an extensive research on the folklores and folk tales. But it will be disheartening for the researchers and the writers when their works are not studied and appreciated. As we all know, appreciation of a work of art begins only in the college level. Therefore, it has become a high time to accept the Tangkhul at the college level. There is a need to collect all the poems, the essays, the short stories, etc., which may form some anthologies for study in schools and colleges. Further, there are hundreds of folk songs and folk tales in every village which needs to be recorded and compiled to preserve the culture heritage of the Tangkhuls. Okay, thank you. Let me end up here.
Yeah, good, very good. Thank you.
Can we now call on Mr. Jawahar, teaching of Indian minority language for tribal students?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Jawahar, are you there? Check karo list of participants.
Tulika, he was online just now.
Yes.
He has replied back.
Jawahar is there.
Yes.
He is there.
Yes. He is a regular participant in NERI seminars. He comes for all seminars.
He is there. He is there. Jawahar's Aminathan.
Mr. Jawahar Swaminathan, please present your paper. If there is any problem, we'll move on to the next presenter.
No, he is there. He is there.
Jawahar is preparing for his.
We cannot hear you. Mr. Jawahar, we cannot hear you.
Madam, I am speaking now. Are you audible, madam? Madam?
Please check your audio system. Sir, we'll give him time and come back later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if Dr. Lianboy Vaipe is ready, you can present your paper on an inquiry into language learning in the society and culture.
So Tulika, she's presenting tomorrow, so I'm coming in now.
Okay. So this will be Dr. Melissa presenting the paper on the furor towards the standardization of Indian Sign Language concerns at school education.
Just give me a minute. I'm trying to present the. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. You can see the slide. Can you see the slide? Tulika, can you see the slide?
Yes, we can see the slides, Melissa. Make it full screen.
Okay, but I can't see the slide. Okay. Anyway, there's a problem. I don't know why I can't see my own slide here. See, I've quickly just put up 4-5 slides because my presentation was supposed to be tomorrow. Then I had to fill in the slot because Dr. Lian Boy said that she has a meeting. So my paper is the furor towards the standardization of Indian Sign Language concerns at the school level. Now, this paper draws from several researches that I've conducted here at NERIE-NCERT, as well as an ongoing research which I'm conducting online. Now, I'll briefly just discuss on these 4 points about this paper. First of all, the background on sign language studies, and for years and years we've been talking about sign language, and many of you have heard about what is sign language, and also there are many linguistic studies that has testified to the fact that sign languages exhibits the same linguistic organizational principles as any spoken language. So such studies you could see from this slide here. It started off with William Stokey, an American English professor who studied English at the Gallaudet University, but he was hired to teach English to deaf students. Then he discovered that, the sign language that is used by the deaf community follow a certain systemic pattern of organization. Is not simply random movements of hands and facial expression when one produces sign language. So since the 1960s and onwards, there are many studies have been, started in sign language studies. And in India, of course, we have comparative studies. First of all, in 2000, in the year 2000, by Zeshan, Ulrike Zeshan, she compared the Indian Sign Language with Pakistan Sign Language grammar. Then there were many sociological studies as well conducted by Jepson, Cross, and so on and so forth. My own research, PhD, and so on and so forth, and my senior Sinha, Samar Sinha's work also on Indian Sign Language has contributed to linguistic research in India. Now, attempts to document the sign language in India started since the 1970s by Madan Vishesh. He himself is a deaf person, and then and other two linguists, Woodward and Wilson. They tried to document sign language all over across the Indian continent, and what they have found is that there are 4 varieties of sign languages operating in India. Why it results in 4 dictionaries? Because the focus of the study is mainly in the 4 major metropolitan cities. Now, since that time also, we have the Ramakrishna Mission who tried to compile sign language dictionary into different semantic categories. And then nowadays, contemporary world, we have online dictionaries, apps, many other things available and around the world, but in India we have a very few. Indian Sign Language, that is by the Deaf and Able Foundation India. Then the ISL online dictionary by the Indian Sign Language Research Training Center, and in Northeast Sign Language Varieties also, which is compiled by our office here, and an app by the government of Meghalaya and many others. So the point is, I want to discuss a little bit about the struggles of the deaf community and the Indian Sign Language, and the issue of sign language as a natural language, and the community, the deaf community as a linguistic entity is still a very, very much a struggling issue, especially when it is a stigmatized language associated with disability. And for years, they have been under the umbrella of inclusive education, this special education. So even the language that predominates the education is oral language or any other, like whether English or Hindi. So it's kind of years of struggle for them because they are assessed and evaluated on their achievement, be it academic or any other levels of achievement based on their competence and proficiency in sign language. So it's a form of what we linguists call linguistic imperialism. So for years this has been going on. Now suddenly with NEP 2020, government is saying that we should be standardizing sign language. So now what happens here is that when we talk about standardization of Indian Sign Language, of course, with this announcement, with this mandate, this has brought a sense of pride to the deaf community all over India. Based on my online research that is going on right now, I don't think the deaf community understood what is standardization of a language really means, because when we talk of standardization, any language, be it sign or spoken, it is a conscious effort to promote one's community. Of course, in the process of standardization, conventional forms of language are established and maintained and decided by members of that community. But in India, it is not so. It's much more influenced by the hearing, the agencies, the deciding agencies on how and what language preferred signs or preferred words to be used in the national and school levels and any other government platforms. Now, what happened is that when it comes to um, variations. You see, Indian Sign Language, as I said, that many of them have not understood what is standardization. There is a form of formal standardization enforced or imposed, or there is another process which is a natural process of standardization. Now, amidst the divergent views from the different sections of the deaf community in the social media and magazines, the moment the NEP mandate came, the Indian Sign Language Research Training Center, which was set up by the government, have been entrusted to create such standardization. And NCRT, being the lead in school education, also has signed MOU to work with ISLRTC. Now, going to the standard variety of Indian Sign Language, who decide what is standard and what is not. Now, variation in languages, spoken or signed, is a natural feature of both the languages. Now, Johnston in 2010 points out that, in quotes, the socio-linguistic study of sign and spoken languages has long rested in two guiding principles: the principle of quantitative modeling and the principle of multiple causes. The first principle refers to the need to quantify both variation in linguistic form and the relationship between the variant form and the features of its surrounding linguistic environment and social context. The second principle reflects the long-standing assumption that no single linguistic or social factor can fully explain variation in language.
Please
Yes.
wind up. Please wind up.
Oh, since I'm coordinator, I have pretty much liberty to extend 2 minutes, okay? Which suggests that variation in the linguistic system used by speakers of different ages at a single point in time can indicate a change in progress. My point is, since I have to conclude, the moderator is not allowing me. So my point is that there are variations existing across the region, especially in Northeast. I can tell you, based on our research, that there are the lexical variations that exist even among the states here in Northeast in terms of sign language use. And my online research that is I'm showing here in the PPT, it shows that when users or signers from a different region to another, these are based from the responses I'm getting across all over the country, where they testify that they do not understand each other's signs because they vary. And the problem is that when agencies controlling and deciding what language to be used, this is the standard and this is not standard. The correctness of language is deciding by a small agency. That language tends to be used in education, and that will dominate the rest of the variations that exist in the country. So unlike the Flemish deaf community, unlike the Brazilian deaf community or any other deaf community around the world, which rejects the imposition of standardization but support the natural process of language growth and standardization, because they see language standardization as a natural process enriches and strengthens the language rather than a threat. But in India, the whole process of standardization seems to be a matter of lexical unification to avoid confusion, communication confusion. These you will see from many papers that have written, and the perspective of the hearing majority saying that we want one sign language, we don't want to get confused. So they don't understand the natural element of the language in itself. So these are the points that I want to highlight. If I have more time, of course, I will be saying more things. And this is what I want to say. It's eating up.
Thank you, Malika. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
We will move on to the next paper. Lumintang Guite, Problems and Challenges of Spelling System in Thado Kuki Language.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I am here ready to present.
Yes. So please restrict yourself to the 8-minute time given.
Sure, ma'am. I will finish before 8 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, ma'am. First of all, good evening to each and everyone. Today, I will be presenting on the topic problems and challenges of spelling system in Thado Kuki language. First of all, let me highlight about the language and the people. When we talk about the Thado, it refers to both the people and the language. The Thado has a considerable population in Manipur. Thado Kuki belongs to the Tibeto-Burman language family. Thado language is widely spoken in all hill districts of Manipur. Thado used a Roman script for orthography. It is worth mentioning the contribution of Christian missionaries from the West among the tribes of Manipur who brought formal education. Ngulho Thomsong, 1891 to 1945, was believed to be the
Mr.
first.
Gujar,
Yes,
please,
yes.
please speak loudly.
Okay, so sorry. Okay. Ngulho Thomsong, 1891 to 1945, was believed to be the first man from among the Thado Kuki speakers to be educated in Western education and to have ever produced printed publication. This study is important for developing a formal and standard writing system in Thado Kuki language, as there is no standard writing system. Books, magazines, newspaper, extra published in local dialects are spelled according to writer's choice of spellings. There are two types of spelling followed in Thado Kuki language. One under the influence of the Bible spelling system, which was believed to be the first written Thado Kuki spelling system, and another in an independent writing system followed by different authors. Objective of my study, number one, is to study the different spelling system in Thado Kuki language for standardization. Two, to investigate the areas where spelling systems differences are commonly committed. Three, to develop a platform to organize all these different writers to form a common standard writing system to improve the future literature of the Thado Kuki. Now I will come to the main point, that is results and discussion. Research findings. Most of the spelling problems in Thado Kuki are related to vowel sounds. Now let's go to some examples. I will give just 5 or 6 examples, then I will conclude. Spelling problems with E and I. Example in middle position. For example, DEL, del, which means towel in English, is sometimes written as DIL. And then another example, KEUQ, which means knock, is also spelled as KIU. Here it shows that some writers prefer to use E in the middle position of a word, whereas others use I spelling system. So there is a different spelling system, as there is no standard writing system. Example number 2, problems with A and E. Example 1, SEP, 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 which means throw in English, is also spelled as SAP. TAP, TAP, that means test to test in English, is also spelled as TEP, TAP. Here some writers will choose E sound in the middle position of a word, whereas other will use A sound in the middle position of a word. Depends on each of depends on the authors. Now I will come to the diphthongs. Thado has approximately 10 diphthongs. There are some diphthongs spelling problems. Let me give one or two. Spelling problems with AI and EI. For example, immediate position of a word, LAM, lam, which means dance, is also sometimes written as LAAM, lam. Can you hear me, ma'am? Okay.
Over. Mr. Gujar, you have finished your.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
No,
Can
so sorry, I have not finished yet, but it's okay, fine.
Okay, if you have any concluding remarks, you can.
Let me. Okay, fine. Okay, I have so many examples to tell, but as there is no, as I am running out of time, let me just conclude by presentation. This investigation and assessment of different spelling system in Thado Kuki language would bring some new insights into the need for standard writing system in Thado Kuki language. There are two types of writing system in Thado, one under the influence of the Bible writing system, other an independent writing system followed by different other in a later stage. There, the need for a standard writing system is found very crucial for Thado Kuki language speakers. Because of no writing standard system in Thado Kuki language, researchers who are working on Thado Kuki language are facing difficulties in finding correct data. To address these problems, the language speakers have to initiate a standard writing system, and linguists can contribute to developing a standard writing system in Thado Kuki language. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. That's all about my presentation. Hello, am I audible?
Can I request now Mr. Kanshua Susi, issues and challenges faced in implementing mother tongue education, a case study of Maring.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. I'm ready. Hello? Hello?
Yes, please make your presentation, Ms. Susi.
Okay. All right. So my title, as mentioned, issues and challenges faced in implementing mother tongue education, a case study of Maring. First of all, I would like to give a brief introduction of Maring. So Maring is basically spoken in southeastern part of Manipur, and it's actually bordering with Myanmar. The languages belongs to Tibeto-Burman and has a population of about 26,422 speakers as per 2011 census. So basically, there are around 86 villages scattered in three districts: Tengnopal, Chandel, and Thobal. And Maring is basically a multilingual society because it is one of a tribe which has close contact. It is a tribe which settle on the foothills of the mountains in the Manipur. So basically, it has close contacts with Meitei. So it is very fluent in Meitei. And then we have English with the younger generation who are who receive Western education. And basically, we don't have script, but then we use Roman script. But people who above the age of 50, basically who don't receive the Western education, they prefer to use the Devanagari script or the Meitei loan script. So it's not yet been taught in school, but the primers are being printed at the moment, and it's yet to be implemented in schools. So my paper, as the topic suggests, I'll be pointing out a few issues and challenges. I have mentioned this earlier in the question that I was asking Professor A.K. Mishra. The first point, the issues, is that Maring has three varieties, as I mentioned earlier. So it's Maring, Khoibu, also known as Uipu, and Ramyang, which is also known as Mongmi. So we have a population of about just 26,000, of which we already have a variation, three varieties. So it's like splitting 26 into three varieties. And then the Maring standard also can further be divided into three minor variation depending upon geography, like the southern variety, the eastern variety, and the central variety. So we were talking about standardization. Of course, we have a society called Maring Literature Society. They already selected Lamlong variety as to be the standard variety. But the problem here is that Lamlong is just a small village, and of course it's like minority versus the majority. So though it's officially appointed as the standard variety, when people communicate, they use their own village varieties. So basically it is only for writing purpose. So people prefer to use their own home language or village language, because every village have its own unique varieties. So that is one reason. And like Professor Mishra pointed out, Manipur is a very complicated state in regarding to linguistics problems, because my concern was that if I as a linguist doesn't fight for the two other dialects. So Uipu and Maring is basically a little bit similar, but the third dialect, the Ramyang or the Mongmi, is very different. So for instance, Maring and Uipu the word for food is chak, rice, but for mongmi it's bu. So basically, this is a very different dialect. So I do agree when Professor Mishra said that like we can club together similar language. So we can already publish. So say for instance, we can make a standard lamlong as the standard for Wipu and Maring, but for the Ramyang variety, it's entirely. I wouldn't say entirely. Of course, there are similarities, but then like 70% is different. Like 70% is different. So in that case, how do as a linguist and as my own community member help project the mother tongue for the section belonging to this language? That is one thing, and another thing is the second point is failure of schools in recognizing the habitats of language of children belonging to minority tribes. So basically, my paper is like a case study of three schools, one government school in village, in my village Machi, and then another private school in my same village, my village, and then another private school in Palel area, which is basically like a town of for the Maring. So basically, and then and the fourth school would be like the schools that are in Imphal. So basically, there are so many like Stewart mentioned, like there's so many tribal students who are studying in Imphal area because of better education facilities. So likewise, Maring, though less in population, we have a handful of people, students studying in Imphal. So the problem with that is that Manipur already have 37 languages, and out of this, the government recognized 14 tribes to be studied in school. But unfortunately, as P.A. Stewart mentioned, Tangkhul was one of the language. And if Tangkhul, like, which is a bigger tribe, like, compared to Maring, still is struggling to get teachers like to teach at school level, like there's no chance for a smaller tribe like Maring having just 26,000 population to find teachers in private schools in Imphal Valley or Imphal area. And the third point is negative attitudes of the own speaker, because now I'm coming back to Palel, which is a town. So Palel is it's like the hub of Maring town. So basically, we have so many schools there which are run by Maring people, and majority of the students themselves are also Maring. But being a private school run in a town area, they prefer English education over their mother tongue. So this is one reason, and obviously. Because mother tongue education has not yet been fully implemented in the state, people doesn't know the advantage of learning mother tongue. Like mother tongue education doesn't have a job perspective for that matter. So what's the point of learning and teaching mother tongue? So basically, that being a negative attitude, or Maring schools having majority of Maring students doesn't implement mother tongue education. And the fourth point is that I was surprised, like when I was interviewing some of the government teachers in my village, they do mention that like they use Maring as a medium of education for the primary levels, like for the beginners like KG1, KG2, class 1, class 2 and all. But the thing is that these schools, being a government school, has very less population, very less number of students. So my village has three schools, two private schools and one government schools. So all those parents who can afford private, like, so the other two private school, one is a Catholic school and the second is also a Baptist run missionary school. So all those parents who could not afford these two good schools comes to the government school. So it's like the government school have around a couple of hundred, maybe 200 or 300 at the most. So the government school, though they implement mother tongue education, the chances, the number of students is very less, and so it's a matter of choosing mother tongue. Would you choose mother tongue?
Yes, Miss Preeti,
Yes,
your
ma'am.
time, yeah, there is no more time left, so please conclude.
Okay. So yeah. So my last point, another being lack of funding. So my suggestion is that if the government can look into the government schools, if they can look into the government school, because the government schools are actually implementing mother tongue education, so it would be we can look into that. The government can play a good role in that. And then the third my another suggestion would be implementation of 4 language policy. I mean, of course we are talking about 3 language policy, but then it's like if we can implement Maring, Khoibu and Mongmi. So just to take a minute, ma'am, in high school we have a subject called moral science, but then moral science is not taken by the Catholic. They opt for another subject called catechism. So if we can, if we have the options of Maring, Khoibu, and Mongmi even at the primary level, and then that would be our first language, and second language would be English, third language would be Meitei, and fourth language would be Hindi. So basically, rather than following the 3 language structure, if we can go for another 4 language policy, I think that would at least have a chance in implementing or bringing the mother tongue education. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Susi. I can see Mr. Johar connected. If you are ready and your audio system is fine, then you can present your paper, Teaching of Indian Minority Language for Tribal Students.
Yes, ma'am. I am ready, madam.
Yes, please present.
Okay. Now I am presenting. One second, madam. Madam, is audible, madam?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, madam. Now I am going to present the paper about the teaching of Indian languages and minority languages for tribal students, the research study through questionnaire and field study. This is my topic today. Now we see the PowerPoint presentation about the tribal students research study. Now, in my area in the Western Tamil Nadu, there is a hills area that is the border of the Kerala state, and also so many hills area and hillside schools is available. I have for last 6 months and from last year I have taken so many research studies for this type of language studies. Okay, the aim is teaching of Indian language and minority language for tribal students. How they will benefit from integrated and holistic approach by ICT method. The aim is to create the method for teaching of Indian language through innovative method to acquire the second point, to acquire teachers knowledge with the tools like in ICT and many integrated approach with the people's life, integrated method of learning the culture, which is mentioned in the national education policy. So next, to develop understanding of the innovative strategies for the poor tribal people language development. Even recent time, the Mr. Narayanan, the taken the studies about the Irulas, the particular community exists in the area of Western Tamil Nadu. So for that, the sign language development was created by himself. That is a famous example in the Western Tamil Nadu. Next, to create the common platforms for minority language learning. This is the aim of the paper presentation. Some tools, direct interview method from 50 teachers in Western Tamil Nadu hills areas. I met personally along the Oti and Anaihatti hills area, and even in my Udumalpatti education district that is located near Tirupur district.
Mr. Johar, please come
yes,
to
ma'am.
your findings. Please come to your findings.
Okay, madam. Okay. I have some 1,000 students with 4 scale method, field visits, and my methodology. I am going to directly my methodology. The through the interview method, they present students of upper primary students background I have taken from 2013. Their geographical background and their ambition and the school development plans analyzed for the improvement of the students' benefit. Through this interview, the people of hill areas, cultural developments, and basic cognitive and learning skills I have analyzed on that area. So the language of peoples encouraged by the nature of the characters of the tribal background were analyzed by the method. I will show the questionnaire. You all will understand about the questionnaire. So mainly the area is Kurumalai, Kodandur, Talanji. These are all the hills area in this area. uh, I have analyzed the present learning of language and their native language different concept questions answered by the students. Like the questions is, I will show some questions, then it will be very easy.
There is no presentation. How will you show?
1 minute. There is no slide, madam.
No slide. So please
Now,
come to your conclusion. Findings and conclusion.
some language explanation through I have showing some PowerPoint. Are you saw the slides, madam? ICT tools
No, there is
explanation.
nothing. Your video even is off.
Video is in off.
Yes.
1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute, madam.
No, Jawahar, it's okay. You can just conclude.
Video.
Jawahar, you conclude.
Yes. I am showing the
You have
video.
already
1
submitted
minute.
your paper, so we'll read that later. You conclude
Okay,
now.
madam.
Conclusions only.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't waste time in
Okay.
video and PPT. Yeah.
Sir,
Just conclude.
okay, sir. The language development should be through the ICT tools like video clippings and Leaf Snap app, like this app and like this some power portals you utilized for the schools tribal students for the engagement of the school students. That is very useful for their development and also the language development. Through the local people and through the volunteers in the local area, they helped for the development of the language learning. That is a very important in my research, sir. That's an important point. Educational technology with the improvement of people, like the app development and e-bird, because so many birds and habitual cultural developments exposed by the some ICT tools, then they easily understand about the circumference their people. So mainly primary students and upper primary students, all the peoples wanted like these pictures like studies. So this is the conclusion, sir. So integrated approach is the main important role for the development of the tribal students. That is my conclusion, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johar.
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Is Mr.
Because of
Anjan Bonik there? Please see, check in the participants list. Sorry, he is not there. So, with these 6 papers have been presented, sir, there is no more paper. Mr. Anjan Banik is not online.
Okay.
So, 6 papers were presented in this session.
Right.
And we have come to the conclusion of the paper presentation.
Madam is there now. Sandhya ji is there.
Who he has connected again. So I think.
So let's
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I got disconnected. I'm so sorry.
listen to
Chairman
her.
Sahab, I'm sorry, Chairman Sahab.
Yeah. No problem, ma'am. It happens.
Actually, I don't know. Actually, I was continuing and suddenly I saw that I heard, nobody is responding. Then I called Melissa. I said, what happened? He said, no, ma'am, you are. No. So I'm
It's
so
all
sorry
right.
for that.
No.
So actually, I was actually, I started only for 10-15 minutes and then I got disconnected. So I'll start from where I have left. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tulika, for this. And I'll share my screen, some of the PPTs. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So actually, I was talking about linguistic diversity of India. Already, this portion I think I have completed. Then, in this linguistic diversity of India, I talked about the kind of, the SCRTs. Because last year I visited this SCRTs. 8 SCRTs I visited, and plus I got the questions from all the SCRTs of our country and some of the union territories. And they also told me, they also gave the idea that how many languages do they offer in the primary classes. So what they have written that in Nagaland, around 17 to 18 languages they offer in the school system, and all the northeastern states, for example, Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim and Nagaland and Manipur, they all the languages are more in the primary and upper primary and elementary classes. Languages, they offer more languages. Choices are there for the students. So many tribal languages are given. And also in the in other states, as Professor Avdeshji, he pointed out that in Odisha the minority languages are Telugu and Bengali. So the children also they opt for these languages. And as like in Bengali is a major language, but in Odisha it is a minor language. In Tamil Nadu also, in Jharkhand, in Chhattisgarh, in West Bengal. So all the neighboring states, they also offer Odia as a this minority language. So when we talk about this minority languages, language education, you find that in different states there are provisions are given for the inclusion of minority languages. But what I want to say is that, as I agree with Professor of this, that we should, it should not be confined to the elementary and secondary stage only. So this education of minority languages should continue all through. It is not only for primary or for for researchers or for masters. It has to be there all through. So am I audible? If I'm not, then you have to tell me. Tulika.
You're audible. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. If I'm not, you have to tell me. Okay.
Yes.
So after this linguistic diversity of India, then let us go to the minority language education. And in this, I had already, I wanted to highlight is that this minority language education, we are talking about the school initiatives, and we talk about that, as Abdishji said, that we for this minority language education to be successful, it is the duty of the states, the SCRT, CIL, NCRT, and the community. They should come together. Here, I'll give you 2 or 3 examples where the school headmasters, school principals, and the community, they take initiative in the introduction of minority languages in the not in the in the regular examination thing, but yes, they give promotion to opportunity for the children to use their own language. They try to promote the tribal languages of the students. So I went to a place called Dhanaghera. It is in Baripada. Baripada is a district in Orissa. It's a remote tribal areas I went, and few schools I visited where I found that they are bringing out annual magazine for the students where 6 languages are they find a place, 6 languages find place in the magazine. One is the Odia language, English, Hindi, Sanskrit, Bengali, and Adivasi Bhasa. So these 6 Adivasi Bhasa is again it can be Kui, it can be Santali, it can be Ho. So if the students are from different language community, they write in Odia script and the stories and the poems, and they publish it in the magazine. So children get encouraged to write. So there is a language corner, there is a world magazine all the students, like tribal students, they write in their own language and they post it. And then if the other students, Oriya students, they do not understand, then they explain them. This is the story. So there is a kind of encouragement for the students to write more, use their language. But if this can be a practice in, if these languages can enter into the system, then it will be very, very like welcoming, and it will create a kind of enthusiasm in the students to read and write in that language and give examination also. So now, when we come to this minority language education, because the topic is critical issues and policy perspectives on minority language. Okay, so if we talk about minority language, so why should we go for minority language education? There are so many researchers, there are so many linguists. They have told time and again. Even our policies, they also reiterate this issue, that children should be given education in their own language. If children are, if it is true for this 22 scheduled languages, it should be true for the minority languages also. Okay, so my first point I talked about why and what and why is minority language education. Here, I'll give you some points on minority language education. It refers to teaching of minority languages, and its main purpose is to teaching the minority groups by using the heritage language as a cognitive and affective instrument to make sense of their world. Okay, and sometimes it is a way to improve their mastery of the majority language. So we talk about language transfer. So if they are good in one language, if they do their work in their own language, we call it heritage language. Why it is heritage language? Because there is a rich literature is available in this language. When I went to different schools of tribal areas, these children, they started telling me stories in their own language, and these stories they have heard from their own parents. So there is a oral transmission of the language of the stories from the parents to the students. So when they are they are so happy to tell the story in their own language. Even that's why every language carry the culture. So it has a rich culture is there in the language of tribal people. So that is why it is a heritage language. So if the children they learn their language, they learn whatever they are studying in the school through their own heritage language, then it acts as a cognitive and affective instrument to make sense of their world, whatever is happening in the world. They understand the world better. And sometimes it is also improves the mastery of the majority language. So majority language for them is Odia, and then the third language is English for them. So if they're good in one language, obviously the skill will be transferred to the second language and the third language. Here I would like to give the example of Emily schools. I visited some 20 Emily schools in other tribal areas like in Moirganj, in also by some of the remote areas of Balesur district. So I found in Fulbani areas, there are ashram schools, there are Emily schools, and then there are also the students, they're learning in their own language in classes 1 and 2 in Emily schools. And there are also exhibits, and there are many things are kept in the premises of the school inside the classroom. Children know all these things in their own language, and then after that they are given they are told in Odia. So both the languages simultaneously are being developed in them. They are good in their own language. They are also trying to, I mean, there is a smooth transition from their home language to the state language, that is Odia. So this is a continuous practice, and children are also good in, I mean, because they understand the numericals in their own language, they understand the environmental studies in their own language. So like cognitively, I mean, they are more advanced because they understand everything in their own context. So the home language, the home context of their environment, they add to their cognitive development. That is why the heritage language has a cognitive and affective tool, and it has strengths and benefits also, because they learn in their own language. So one that is I went through a research study of O. Garcia, where he says that minority language education also enables minority children to find themselves in the school, and the voice of the books they read, the songs they sing, and stories they weave. So here I was reminded of Professor Agnihotri's statement. He said that children's voices should be heard, because how will you hear the voice of the children? Only when they speak in their own language. Okay, so the children's voice here, when the children are speaking, when children are telling stories, when children are singing songs in their own language, they get excited, they get inspired, and they weave stories. They try to, what should I say, use different words, use their imagination, and tell stories, and obviously the language is developed. So they get the language input, they get we call input rich environment. So when the children are speaking, children are listening to each other, so we are giving them input rich environment for the language to develop. Okay, and they learn the language. That is why minority language education should also be promoted. Then the third one, like I would like to say that the Beckers and Jones, Cummins and Baker, once again, they have also conducted research, they have written papers, and they say that minority language education has a socio-cognitive benefit. So what is the meaning of socio-cognitive benefit? We all know that children are the meaning is that enabling children to use the language as they know best, to develop their understanding of cognitively complex academic material, because all the textbooks and they carry the content, and this complex content can be understood easily by their own language. That is why minority language education needs to be promoted in schools. And the other thing is that, like as McNathan also talked about, even Sir also, Abdes also talked about, that this also creates a greater meta-linguistic awareness, and also help them also helps divergent thinking, because once you know your own language, then you go ahead. So when you go ahead means you are uh, that is your the meta linguistic awareness has also been promoted. So here I gave a few reasons, because there is no time for this thing. We are towards the end of the session, so I'd like to say that these are the reasons why minority language education has to be developed, has to be there in the school. Another thing I would like to quote is that with majority language education, minority language, both, if you go simultaneously majority language education and minority language education, then minority students, they reap some socio-cognitive benefits and have been associated with bilingualism. So this bilingualism is also, already in our NCF 2005, we have seen that bilingualism, multilingualism, they also add to the cognitive development of our children. And children, they learn many languages, because at this age they can learn many languages effortlessly if proper. There is a conducive atmosphere, and the input-rich environment is there for them. So that is why, like the students, both minority and majority language, they understand their culture, their history, and simultaneously, because majority language and minority language, because when there is an exchange of ideas, exchange of thoughts, exchange of stories and all, so there is a cultural exchange. So it provides a vehicle for intercultural understanding. We also talk about it is language is not only communication, it is also for the thoughts on built inside the language. So if it is carrier of all these things, tradition and culture and all that, so children will also automatically, without knowing, they are also exposed to this intercultural understanding. So that is why it conserves the language resources of a society and builds its capacity for multilingualism. So we all go for multilingualism. That is why minority language has to be included in in our school curriculum. If it is not, then we are depriving our minority students. Okay, and then it will lead to the dropout also. If children are not getting education in the indigenous language, then we are depriving them from the right to education. Okay, so because it is leading them to unfamiliar language, unfamiliar culture, and leading them to alienation. Sorry, leading them to alienation. So they alienate themselves from the school, from the education, and they prefer to be out of school. That is why in the World Bank 2004, it points out that 50% of the world's out of school children live in communities where the language of the schooling is rarely used at home. So if the school language is not used at home at initial stage, at the primary stage, children they drop out. So 50% of the world's children out of school because of this. And this underscores the biggest challenge of achieving education for all. So you cannot achieve education for all if children's language, this minority language, is not given importance or is not being included in the school curriculum. So, a legacy of non-productive practices that lead to low level of learning and high level of dropout is there always. So, this is also corroborated by McKenzie, Gingran, and Werb. They have conducted different surveys, different studies. Here, here, this Gingran, Pamela McKenzie, she also quoted one study from Orissa. The study is that the retention rates and early dropout rates for scheduled tribe in Orissa is 27% children drop out before class 2, 42% drop out before class 6. Only 21% are remaining in school by 7th grade. So if the school is not, if we are not going for
Madam,
multilingual, am I not audible?
no, you are audible. If we can conclude.
I'll conclude now. Okay.
Yes,
So this
yes,
is,
thank you.
can I take another 4 to 5 minutes?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so before 5 I'll finish. It is 4:50. Before 5 I'll conclude. Okay, so what I want to say is that Pamela, McKinsey, Jingran, Worm, they also conducted studies and they also come to the conclusion that the problem of non-comprehension of tribal children in the classroom is because of their absence of their language. So that is why we must encourage, we must go for minority language education. So every language reflects a unique worldview and culture, mirroring the manner in which a speech community has resolved its problems in dealing with the world. So if that we want the children to be independent, to be the independent learners, and to grow fully and grow to their full potential, then we have to use minority language. So after that, we know that there are policies which support this multilingual education. So we know we can go for UNESCO document, United States literary decades. We have constitutional support also. Indian Constitution also supports that there has to be minority education. Article 30, 358, 29, Article 30. So Article 29 says very categorically the protection of interest of minorities, their language. Article 30 also talks about right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. So all minorities, whether based on religion or language, shall have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. They can go to any educational institution, but yes, they should have. It should be non. It should not be non-indigenous language, but it has to be indigenous language. Our 1986 policy, POA, even they talk about mother tongue education. NCF talks about it. NCF also talks about mother tongue based multilingual education. So it is not a new thing for all of us. We can Google and find out what NCF talks about. It talks about cultural learning. It talks about home languages. It talks about language tied to identity and thought of the students. If it is the language is tied to thought and identity, then we must not deprive the children from their identity. Then he talks, RT also talks about it, because we know that RT has already 2009 reiterates everybody quotes RT, that RT also recognizes children who are disadvantaged as linguistic minorities, and stipulates that medium of instruction shall, as far as possible, be in child's mother tongue. So that also we should respect that. And then NP 2020, as already we all know that NP has already, says very emphatically. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Tulika?
Yes,
Tulika?
continue.
Hello?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
continue, madam.
Hello, Tulika?
Yes, madam,
Hello?
continue.
Hello?
Continue, madam.
Tulika,
We
can
can
you
hear
hear me?
you. We
Hello?
can hear you.
Hello, Tulika?
Hey, chat box में लिखो
Hello?
तो.
Hello? Hello?
Ma'am, we can hear you.
Tulika?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Hey, video on करो, video on करो.
Hello? Can you hear me,
We can
Tulika?
hear you. We can hear
Yes,
you.
yes,
Go
we
ahead,
can hear
ma'am.
you.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Tulika.
Oh,
Sir, I think she cannot hear us.
huh?
So what do we do, sir? Wind up with some questions?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Am I
Ah,
audible?
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Hello?
Yes, now we can open the session to other participants.
Hello? 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 Am I audible? Tulika, am I audible? Tulika, am I
Yes.
audible?
Yeah, yeah. We can hear
Hello?
you.
Ma'am, hear you. Please continue this one.
You continue, ma'am. We are able to listen to you. You continue. Now you have muted yourself. Unmute yourself and continue.
ତମେ ମତେ ହଇରାଣ କରନି ଆରେ ଗୋଟେ ରଖିଛ ଗୋଟେ ଧନ୍ଦା ଯେ hello. So I just conclude in 2-3 minutes. It is like
Yeah.
I'll just conclude in 2-3 minutes.
Fine. Yeah, ma'am.
I don't know, something is happening.
We are able to hear you. So what you do?
Okay.
Keep talking. We can listen to you. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, conclude it now.
Schools for effective So one is that we must understand the need and benefit of the rights of the students, the linguistic rights, okay, the cultural rights also. Then we must include minority languages in the state education system, because states' willingness is very, very important. If the states are not willing, then it is difficult for any kind of change in the language education, any kind of education also, because education is in the concurrent list. So it can be, the state's willingness is very, very important. The other thing is that this also, I raised the question, I asked this question to Professor Agnihotri, and yesterday Melissa's, one of the JPF in NERI, he also asked the question that for this, for effective implementation, we should have teacher recruitment, we should have proper teacher training, both in service and pre-service. We should develop curriculum, instructional material, we should have appropriate pedagogy, and authentic and relevant material for minority language students. If it is not authentic, if it is not relevant, if it is not within their, within their, environment, if it is not within their experience level, it will be a burden to them. If it is a burden to them, then they will not be able to learn. Okay, so that, and they will again, it will lead to dropout. So another person who has Ronald Ferguson, he has given that apart from three, always we say that there are three E's for like three R's, arithmetic and writing and all that. So he said that no, we should have six R's for any kind of proper implementation of minority education and giving scope for the children to be in the school. One is that rights, resources, requirements, systemic reform, rules, and research-based pedagogy. If there is no research-based pedagogy, and we do not know what is effective, what is not effective. So if it is that, then children will not be able. Will not be able to properly implement this minority language education in the school. So, and then then I go to, there are some 5 to 6 points. It is that positive policies, there has to be proper script for the language, otherwise it will be difficult, whether it is the majority language script, or they have their own script, or there has to be a script, or the scripting the language. And then for this CIL is there, they are translating, the translations can also be, and there in other languages. So there are many things. Yesterday also madam from CIL, she was talking about. And then they say that there is the languages are, some say that their languages are underdeveloped, but we know that languages are not underdeveloped, because Professor Ajit Mohanty, he said that languages are not underdeveloped. Rather, as you have said rightly, that language is a social construct, and we are this. We people like this. Suppose there is a language is underdeveloped, then it is the disabilities and disadvantages associated with minor language are not inherent. Rather, they are socially constructed and institutionalized discriminations in educational, political, economic, and other social spheres. So it is not the language is at fault, rather we are at fault, and we call them that they are underdeveloped languages. And there are multiple languages also, how to handle these multiple languages in the class, that will all come under teacher training. Then every children should feel that there is educational right for them, linguistic and cultural rights has to be taken into account. And the most important thing is that we must begin our language education curriculum with the child, because the child is at the center. If children are not there, we say child-centered education. Because children will learn the language, children will carry forward the culture. So and they will have to be independent learners. They will have to the informed citizens of the country. So it is always we should begin with the child, and we should begin with the child's language, which is based on all our teaching should be based in the culture and environment of our school. So a strong foundation in mother tongue builds a good bridge for second language acquisition or any other languages in future. And this firm foundation brings stability and strength to the students, to the institution, to the school, and to the society. So at the end, I would like to say that because this is a critical issues, the topic is critical issues and political perspectives and policy perspectives. So the critical questions that I have raised at the end, which will give us some food for thought, and we will be able to able to implement this minority language education properly if we answer these questions. One is that we what progress has been made in advancing the education of minority and disadvantaged students since nearly 50-60 years, because in 1953 we started this, and all our education policies, quota recognition and POA 1986 policy, everybody is talking about mother tongue education. Why till now we have not achieved all that? So where is the lack? Why there? Who is responsible for this, and how can we go ahead? So what does the research say about the reason for success and failures? There are so many success stories also, and many failures also. So because of the failures, we are not being able to implement it properly. And what are some strategies and the practices that hold the promise of producing continued improvement? So how can we improve? We introduce and implement, and how can we improve this minority language education? And what are the dimensions that affect whether a minority language has the possibility of being successfully included in education with ease and success? So what are the dimensions? Who are responsible? One, we know that it is the political will, and then the state's willingness. And if the states are willing, if they are working with the community, and then NGOs are also coming up. So many people are coming up with many new ideas. If we take the suggestions from others, and how can we implement this with ease and success, this multilingual education, minority language education. And last is that what are the different ways in which minority language education can be organized? There are many ways it can be organized. Okay, so for formally, informally, and there are many ways. Let us do some research on this and come to the conclusion that in what way we will help our children to get education, be there in the school. There should be less dropout, and ultimately they will be culturally rich individuals and very productive individuals for our society. Thank you so much. Thank you, Abdeshji. Thank you, Tulika, and thank you, Melissa, and all for giving me this opportunity again. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am,
ma'am. Yeah.
for your detailed discussion on the critical issues and policy perspectives on minority language education. I also appreciate that after losing the connection, you have again taken the initiative of rejoining us and discussing with us your viewpoints. And you have,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Thank you so much.
yes, thank you, ma'am. We also understand from your talk that each student has a right to get his or her education in their language, and the state
Yes.
needs to look into this issue and be willing to address this issue.
Thank you
We
so much.
also
Thank you.
understand that without the government initiative and willingness, we cannot proceed in this direction. So it is very
Yes.
important for both the society as well as the government to take initiative and hold hands to take these languages forward. But without losing any more time, I would like to take up a few questions if the participants still are there and are willing to raise some questions to any of the participants or to the lead speakers. I don't think so. I don't see anyone raising their hands too. Sir,
Yeah,
uh, then we will come to the conclusion of this
yeah,
technical
sure.
session.
Right.
Um, Sir, then here comes your comment as the chairperson of the session.
Oh, that's a very difficult job to do. I'll simply say that, yeah, like after listening to the paper presenters, especially, we could see the concern they have. They are doing research and also genuine concerns they have expressed, which is surely very important, and that should guide us in our future planning. Like the marrying person, she said that was very genuine concern, and we need to look into that. And after listening to Ma'am Sandhya ji, also we have understood that why it is necessary that we include the languages, mother tongues, and especially the minority languages in different states, so that we can have a better society and we can take care of all the children of all age groups. And the paper presenters, I also especially like our Ukrul friend, the Thankul friend, I think the steward. And then Aden spoke about Nagamis. So actually, this is very difficult to summarize. But what I say is that very, very serious and right questions have been raised in these papers and also in the talk of Professor Sandhya Sahu, madam. So let's take clues from there and work on that so that we can really serve the uh, people, especially of for that minority and tribal languages. And it's possible in NEP 2020. Uh, we, we have new things like having the mother tongue or regional language and language education. Continue it further after class 5. So if those things are implemented really well, then we can really serve the society. Especially our languages have been very, very neglected. And one thing that is missing, I hope someone talks about it, is that uh, see, actually, language unites us, and language also divides us. So, language through language, many things can be manipulated also. So, why leave those 7 or 8% of the population, the so-called tribal population, who speak different languages and mother tongues? So, why we leave them and the rest of the languages keep manipulating everything, whatever is there in the so-called mainstream society, that should not be left out only for the majority, so-called majority languages. All the benefits should also go to the um, minority languages. And one concern that one person talked about maintenance of uh, language, like, and she also mentioned that she or he, I think, Thankul friend, that we need to have literature and also it should be used in school education, Thankul language at higher levels. But that is one thing I would remind ourselves of is that uh, education, school education is one of the various things that we can do to maintain our languages. That's not the only thing. That is one way. Most important is that the language, mother tongue, or dialect should be passed on to next generations. The intergenerational transmission is very, very important. So, school education is no guarantee for saving a language, whether majority, minority, or endangered. That is not sufficient. But yes, that is a good step or the first step we should take to maintain our languages. And as Professor Sandhya Sahu has rightly pointed out, that without all the languages thriving, living, we cannot have a better society where all are like I would say that as Professor Deva also used to mention many times that they are like flowers in the garden. So you cannot have a good garden if you have only one type of flower. That is not a garden. That becomes a bush or something like that. So let's work towards that. That's all I have to say for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Avdes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, thank you for your candid concluding remarks.
Thank you, Tulika.
You have very aptly pointed out that intergenerational transmission of language is very, very important for a language to survive in this era. And we also understand that each language comes with a plethora of knowledge and divergent thinking, and therefore, well crafted language policies are the need of the society for sustainability of the minority languages.
Right.
So we can see that there are tough challenges before the language implementers. Although NEP has given a lot of stress, NEP 2020 has given a lot of stress on language education. We will see in the days to come a lot of changes in the language education, so as to say. Thank you both.
And Tulika, 1 minute. Tulika, I see Rajesh there. So just 1 or 2 minutes, if he could, since he was there since morning,
Yes.
yeah, both the sessions. So
Yes.
maybe he could have seen some connection between the papers that were presented in the first session and the second session, and so anything to conclude. Let's hear him. I
Yes,
would
yes.
request.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Professor Rajesh Sachdeva, sir, if you would like to comment something on it.
It's very kind of Avdesh. Is a good friend of mine, and we have shared the same department, and I think Northeastern University has contributed a sense of awareness about linguistic minorities in this country, and I think it has played. I think all the departments of linguistics have been influenced by our presence there at that time. And the work that is being done by departments of linguistics or NERI or CIL or even NCRT and all that in general, there is a sense need for pooling of our minds and resources. And we need to locate ourselves in the heart of the problems. That is, involve the communities. Let them come and define the problems for us. But there are, I think Dr. Mishra was telling us that how language can become an issue of divisiveness, just as it can become an issue of bringing people together. So we have to be wary of that. And Northeast is exactly the kind of ground on which we have to trade very carefully of that. But no issue is such that it cannot be resolved with earnestness, a sincerity of dialogue, and of coming together with the right mind and right attitude. There was this talk about the Maring and the three speech varieties that are there. And as I was pointing out, it's very interesting that in the tribal communities, we have less of those class differences because there are no caste and caste systems in some sense. But regional varieties are very important. And they are important in recording the history of the language. And if they feel that they are all related to one another, Dr. Mishra was suggesting the idea of allowing in typical sense of selecting one and promoting it over as the common standard and all that. Of course, that is possibility, and if they do it, but simultaneously at a certain level, if those smaller varieties can also be at the moment documented, can be put to book, and we allow for some sort of a diversification of that to happen. It's important at this stage that the language they should not start feeling that one variety is less important than the others. One may be a unifying factor, but others should not become dividing factors. So there needs to be some very responsible sort of a thing. Even the whole entire issue of Thankul, I think I was very happy that Dr. Abhish Mishra also identified that speaker, because the concern of taking the language in the upper levels, and the person was quite aware of the issues that the coming into being of Christianity. I mean, I think Christianity has played a lot of positive role also, but it may have happened that by bringing in new belief systems, we may have not sort of done a favor to the older belief systems. So the idea of working on folklore, old stories, bringing in cultural resources, not that we want to set aside Christianity, but we do want to recover and value the tribal culture in its own terms. And I think that that's extremely important, because you don't have to necessarily convert the cultural beliefs and everything. So that entire idea of revisiting history, recovering history through folklore and all the research projects that were being pointed out are extremely important. Dr. Mishra was also with us in Arunachal Pradesh, and later on, when the NCRT team and we went to visit schools, one tribal child in 10th standard who for the first time had written his language on a blackboard, he came and told us, "Sir, you educationists, you people, are the only ones who don't want to convert us. Everybody comes here, somebody wants to make us Christian, somebody wants to make us Hindu, somebody wants to make us Buddhist, but you are telling us tribal culture is fine as it is. So you respect us for what we are. You're not telling us anything we are inferior or anything." I think it was a very important lesson for us that we are here to value the cultures as they are. We are willing to bring the languages as they are. And we will wait gradually, process of standardization and all to happen. But at the moment, the idea of articulation, of expressing, of recording, of valuing history, and realizing that there can be a tension between belief systems and cultural movings. You see, the entire Meitei, for example, is you feel in Manipur, there's a sense of unification in the tribal minds. They are sort of stand opposed to the Meitei. And I don't know whether it's a mutually felt feeling. A lot of people are trying to avoid Meitei as their school language and trying to promote at the cost of Meitei. I think there is a greater need for bringing in the goodwill of majority into the welfare of the minorities. If you want a truly harmonious society, the idea of majority versus minority must give way. We must break that barrier and we must treat each other as equals. We should set aside the power of the political power through academic power, through power of unleash the power of ideas, through a sense of equality and creativity. We are all equally valuable as human beings. Thank you so much for allowing me to have a few words.
On that note,
Thank you, sir. Just one, two line. Just Melissa, you can just make a note of
I
it.
just wanted to
In
say something, yes, sir, before your talk. I did talk, like sir said, we have to break barriers and all the voices of the people, the minority is very important. I just like to point out, even in my paper that I presented in the session, I talk about this very instant that, you know, the kind of imposition that is coming from the major dominant languages over the sign language varieties in the region make us also
Yeah.
feel that, it's some sort of the lexical unification that they're looking for is not actually going to enrich language but hampers the deaf community in the long run, like
Yeah.
any other deaf community in the world.
I fully
So,
value that,
and
Melissa. Exactly.
another,
Yeah. I think that's very
I would
important.
like to, yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to point that out, like even in the framework of linguistic platform, within that also itself, sign language has never come in the framework of Article 350 or 330 and so on and so forth. So there is no room for them to learn in their language. So even their language matters. Even Professor
so
Sandhya
actually, what we
pointed out
need
about
is
I
we
minority
just
can
want to ask
languages.
1 second for
They
1
need to
minute,
find
please.
their voice in
Just 1 minute. I want to make one statement. You see, the very fact that some languages are returned as mother tongues over different decades. In same names appear in the 1652 list, in the 871 list, 91. Many mother tongues come back again and again. It means there are some geographical territorial units, some places in where these languages are themselves the majority in that little setting. Every minority is a majority in some setting. Remember that.
Right.
And they're the places where they're in good health. They will become the laboratories for more production of materials and all that. So it is our duty to document, describe, and reach those places from where those language materials can be brought, and then they can be put into circulation for consumption in other settings. It's extremely important. Every language that is alive has some place, maybe just one village, where it is in health. So you start with that healthy place and then do transplantation of language from there into the other settings.
Very right, sir. Melissa, just one line. Somewhere should be recorded. I have seen textbooks in Nepal. What they have done for like educating the tribal children using their mother tongue, they have done every textbook, like if it is for Tharu, then every lesson is 3 languages. See, so Tharu, then Awadhi, and then Nepali. So that also like a Malay situation where we have Ramyan and Kogu. So the same textbook can be given, and it works so well in Nepal. So see, that is the way multilingual education, even textbooks, and this is hinted in IDP 2020, that bilingual means that even the text can be there. Teacher can be bilingual. Classrooms can be bilingual. Not that one language you teach and then you give that and go to next, as Professor Mohanty always keeps talking. That is not fair. So even textbook materials, whatever, they can be in 2, 3 languages or 2 varieties. It will certainly help. But this should remind. It has worked well in Nepal for all the travel other times. Yeah, that's all. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Sir, thank you for your insights. Professor Sachdeva, sir, you have touched the right chords. And thank you, Mishra, sir, for asking Professor Sachdeva to come in. Otherwise, we would have missed such rich insights from him. I do hope that these deliberations will go a long way in understanding the minority language education. And although we are running very late, 1 hour behind, so I think it is time we, from the entire NERI family and on behalf of the coordinators of this national seminar, I would like to thank Professor A.K. Mishra, Professor Rajesh Sachdeva, and Professor Sandhya Sahu for being so patient and being with us for throughout the session and also enriching the session with your rich inputs. Thank you. And also had some technical snags in between, and sorry to all the participants. And but then you all have been patient and joined us for the session, entire session. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That we'll meet again tomorrow.
Thank you. We hope.
Thank you, Tulika. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Afternoon again, even if they can't come in the morning, in the afternoon. So thank you, Tulika, Arnab, and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.